the I'm a Fan Of podcast, music, comedy, and more.
Vinnie Corrales, what's up, man? How long's it been since you were on the show? It's been at least a year now, right?
Yeah, I think it was...
I think whenever you put the improv video out, right?
Oh, yeah. So
Maybe back around then?
Yeah, that must have been like the end of 2022.
I remember it caught me off guard because you'd just done the name change and you gave the great story about your father-in-law said he'd kill TV Corrales, and now we got Vinnie Corrales.
Oh, yeah. Don't dead name me.
I'm so sorry. Vinnie Corrales. Vinnie Corrales. We'll edit it out if we need to.
No, I'll never correct anybody. I would never do that.
But, dude, man, you've been making lots of fun, interesting moves. Great to have you on here again. And we are post-eclipse today.
Hell yeah.
Did you see it?
Yeah,
Did you watch it? Are you
yeah.
do you get psyched about that at all?
Oh, I was so psyched.
First one? Have you seen one before?
First, like, total one.
Total one, right?
For sure.
What'd you think? Because I watched, me and my wife, we drove to Tennessee in 2017 to watch one.
Oh, that's love.
Because we had like some free time and we were like, let's do it. We don't know where we're going to be in 2024. Let's go.
Right.
And then today we were like, fuck, it's a good thing we went to Tennessee because it was almost cloud cover the whole day.
I know. Then last minute,
everything parted and it was just beautiful.
It
so
was.
That was your first experience with an eclipse.
It was breathtaking.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's so different than a partial eclipse. And I can't, like, when you try to tell people who haven't seen it that, like, you know, they're like, oh, I've seen the partials before. And it's like, it's just so different. It's so different. It doesn't compare.
It was, I didn't know, you know, you only ever see pictures of it.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just to be there live and just to feel the earth get cooler.
Cold.
Yeah, it was really, really cool.
And did you do it, like, around where you live? Or did you go somewhere?
Well, you know, I still teach, right?
Okay, so were you at work today?
Yeah, we were teaching.
Oh, okay.
And to be honest, I'm kind of pissed. To be honest, I've been in a bad mood all day.
Okay.
And I don't mean to bring it to the show.
Bring it to the show,
Hopefully this show can turn it around.
You can bring it here.
So we were supposed to, so I've been hyping up the eclipse to my class, right? I teach, they're like 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, you know.
Yeah.
And we've been hyping it up like the last week. We got the glasses.
Mm-hmm.
They can tell you a lot about it because, you know, they've been educated about it. So they're very excited today. Over the weekend, though, evidently, we had some parents who were concerned that their kid would go blind. So they ended up just saying, oh, we're not going to let you show the kids this, even though you...
Oh, you had to do like a full-on like a permission slip and stuff or something?
Oh, no, they just nixed it completely.
Oh, so did they just sit inside?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That sucks.
It was during nap time, so I stuck my head out and was like watching it the whole time.
I mean,
yeah,
it's
but
such a teachable, a real world,
Oh.
scientific teachable moment.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like those are the biggest education moments, right? Where, like, I mean, you know, I know they're young, but they'll remember a little bit.
Oh, they'll definitely
remember a little
for
bit.
Sure they
you know,
remember that.
I have a 4-year-old, and we let the grandparents take him because we wanted to just like have our moment. But they even put him out in the front yard, and you know, they're more. They'll chill out more than us. We wanted to like ride our bikes down to the lake. We live over here in East Dallas, so we rode down to White Rock Lake and found a little spot. And it was like everybody wins. You know, they could see their grandson and handle his kind of shenanigans, and we get like a calm, peaceful eclipse. You know, but I was still so happy that he got to see it at least. Like, I don't think he gets it, but
dude, so
he gets it a little. You know,
I think at least like half of my class got pulled out because their parents really wanted them to see it.
Yeah.
So they went and saw it anyway. And then, but for the other ones, I'm like, you know, the sun is out every day during recess. They have all the opportunity to go blind with none of the protection every other day of the year. It was...
Yeah, how did we manage that?
I mean...
Well, I think people underestimate your reflex. Like, if you look and it hurts, you're not going to stay look. Like, if I told my son to look at the sun, he would look up for a moment and go, no, that's, ow, I don't want that.
Yeah,
like,
we're not going to like sit out there for the whole, you know, hour and a half of it. We're just going to watch like the totality of it.
Totality,
for sure. That's the you don't even really need the glasses for that.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, just for reasons that could be best described as ignorant, we had to like pull it. And so I've been carrying that energy.
But at
with
least
me
you
all
got
day.
to see it a little
At
bit.
least I got to see it, but
no, but man, like it's I don't know. I start thinking about just how like for all of that to line up, the size of the sun, the size of the moon, the distance they all are from the earth, It's super rare for that to be a real thing.
Oh, it won't happen in this area for another 300 years.
Yeah. And then like even on Earth, it will drift. The moon is drifting away. It will stop happening at some point where it's totality like this.
It won't be the size.
It won't be the same size. Yeah, it'll drift. It's a long time away, but point being, like, you're in this crazy, unique moment of the solar system, of the universe, maybe. We don't know how many planets have that type of alignment with a rock that's the perfect distance away, you know?
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
It's very cool, and I'm glad I saw it.
I start thinking a lot about all the old civilizations, like the Vikings. They thought it was the wolf god trying to eat the sun, and so they had to shout and scream until it got scared away.
Yeah.
And, you know, of course, like, I think in South America they were sacrificing people probably. So
how can you not? I mean, it would be a crazy thing.
Isn't that wild to think, like,
know.
We're here with glasses like, woo!
Yeah.
But at the same moment that's happening, like, you're sharing a moment that, you know, a couple thousand years ago, whatever, people were like, well, we got to kill him.
Yeah.
It's the only way we're going to save
really,
the world.
Not even that long ago where people have no idea what was going on. Like more people have never known what was going on than know.
Yeah.
You know what was going on for sure.
And what's crazy, it's like, it sounds so stupid, right? Oh, they were yelling. Oh, they sacrificed these people. It's like, yeah, but it worked. The sun came back every time they did it.
Yeah, exactly.
Every time. So thank God they did it, right?
Scientific method at work.
Yeah, it was very scientific at that moment. It was like, well, we did it,
That
guys.
was the best science
They're
could
just
offer,
high-fiving each other, yeah.
I do think about that, like, you're like me, where like when there's bad weather, that like I'm just like looking out the window, watching, and I love it. It's kind of entertaining, but like, you know, way back when, people would have been like, "Oh man, God is pissed at me." Like this is. If you see a tornado coming and you have like no context for what that is, I mean, you can't help but think it's you're being punished for something.
Yeah. That's what's hard to explain to really, really religious people, right? Of like, if you have really strong faith in whatever your religion is, but specifically us here, Christianity is popular, right? And it's like a lot of those stories are probably just that, right? It's like if you were in the area of Houston, Texas, when a hurricane hit, but it wasn't Houston, and it all flooded the way Houston does when they have a horrible hurricane, right? Everywhere you're looking, everywhere you're trying to go is totally underwater. Everything's fucked. And it's like, yeah, that would seem like, God was angry. They sent this stuff down. A volcano erupting out of nowhere, that's got to be.
Oh, that's wrath.
Yeah, and like you said, tornadoes. It's like you're just sitting in your whatever you're living in at the time. Let's say you're Native American and you're just living in a teepee and a tornado just...
Right, because it's so instantaneous.
Yeah.
That you have to think, so you did something recently.
You played back your whole day and was like...
It had to have been of the day.
It was definitely that. Right?
Something that you did that day, for sure.
I think about what we're doing now that's going to look so... like we were saying, they sacrificed people, and to them that was scientific, right? It's like, what are we doing right now that we think is incredibly scientific? And then 2,000 years from now, they're like, can you believe... in 2024, they thought this,
Oh, yeah.
Because there's got to be tons of stuff.
Probably just having our phones this close to us at all times.
That was all the cancer. That was all the
cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah. They would have been like, I'm sure in the future from now, they're going to be like, these people.
Yeah, I mean,
you should have just got it planted in your brain at birth. Like, what are you doing? That way you don't even have to worry about,
Well, I mean, with AI and everything, that might be soon.
Oh, yeah. Wait.
Are you gonna be pro-chip or anti-chip? I go back and forth.
Like if I would get one myself?
Yeah, like if everything was like A-okay, they're like, listen, we got it perfect. It's not going to kill you. But you never have to carry around this phone. We're going to implant this. You get all the things just like in Black Mirror where we can videotape through our eyes now and everything can be recorded and it can monitor your vitals. We can get you to the hospital before you have the heart attack, those types of things.
Yeah.
Are you going to go for that type of intrusion for all the perks, but also, they can spy on you and all the other things.
That's the kicker. That's the kicker. Part of me would, whenever I see like a great vanity plate on the road that I can't like get because I'm on my motorcycle or something, I'm like, I wish my eyes could just capture that. Yeah, just a wink and just capture that. But that's really the only use I could see it being. I mean, I'm fine with picking it up and
but what about
it to my head?
Extreme intelligence? If it gave you that.
Well, I guess, I mean, you don't want to get left behind.
Yeah.
So I guess the temptation is real. Because you know how many people would. And especially if it was like affordable and accessible, the temptation's very strong. I don't know. I might have to do a second.
I know. It's tough to think about.
Because it wouldn't even be like for my personal gain. It would just be
to keep up.
Yeah. Because if everybody's on that. Then.
Yeah. I mean, How long did it take you to master your first Rubik's Cube? Do you remember that?
What do you consider master?
Like where you felt like, I can finish this quickly, efficiently, I understand this, a traditional standard one. What is it? Nine cubes on each side?
A traditional one is a 3x3x3. This is a 5x5x5.
Okay, so the 3x3x3, that's what you started on?
The 3x3, it comes with instructions. When
Yeah, I
you buy
remember you
it.
telling me. Yeah, but still, there's a little practice involved, right?
Yeah, the end of the first week, it was taking me about like 10 minutes. And by the second week, it was taking me about 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
By the third week, it was taking me about 45 seconds. And then it kind of hovers around like 30 to 40.
So it's about 3 weeks then?
About 3 weeks, I would say.
Yeah. So imagine it was just like 30 seconds and we got it. And that was the infinite knowledge that you could have now.
There's fun in the struggle.
Yeah.
There's fun in the struggle, though.
Uh-huh.
You know, I remember the first time just doing it. I mean, like...
It's like a machine can make a chair, but you still want a handcrafted chair.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I wonder about the chip, if there will be people who are like, I like learning the hard way.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, it would be nice, like, you think about, like, just picking up a guitar and just being able to just, like, whatever I think, I can just play.
Mm-hmm. But would it be nice, like you said, without the struggle? Like, would it even be impressive anymore? It's like, of course, everybody plays guitar now.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It wouldn't be. If everybody's awesome, then that doesn't stick out at all, because everybody could just do that. So
maybe that's
then
what
being sucking would be impressive at that point. You know?
Yeah.
Because it's like it sticks out, and they're like, man, look at him struggle.
It'd be like if you saw a monkey who knew a couple chords, and you're like, he knows a couple chords. That's pretty, yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, I do. Or I wonder, like, because the intelligence raced up so high, so quickly, do you then reach this new level of creativity? You're like, of course, since I have mastered guitar, I can now play this stuff that no one has ever thought of before. And then you just reach a new level of baseline playing, maybe.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that'd be... Man, now that I think about it, I don't know.
It's weird, right?
It's really weird to think.
But I think it's going to be here faster than we think.
Oh, for sure. I mean, like, I even think, like beauty standards are, like, devolving. Because they say, you know, I was reading about, like, what the phone has done to us. And, like, it's affected people's posture so much. Like, kids are kind of, like, starting to grow with, like, a little hunched back.
From looking down?
From just, like, just spending so much time just looking down all the time that they're, like, the curvature of their spine is, like, being affected as they grow. Mm-hmm. And it's only going to take a couple generations for that before it's, like, you're not a boob guy or an ass guy. You're like, man, that girl is a hot hunchback over there. She is smoking.
Or, like, do you see the straight back over there?
The straight back.
Yeah, it's
exactly.
all
the
straight, man.
back.
There's no curve in that back at all.
Yeah, she'll be ostracized.
That's true.
Yeah, everybody will have a normal hunchback.
See, you're just making more of an argument for the chip. Because now if I don't need the phone to look down, if I can just look straight ahead, it's like now we're solving hunchbacks.
I guess so. I mean, like, the chip is basically here anyway. I mean, like, they already have all the data.
Yeah,
and
but there's
stuff.
some kind of peace knowing you could just drop that in a cup of water if you wanted to.
Yeah, and then it's just gone. Just throw it in the beach.
Yeah, you could get rid of it.
Yeah,
you know,
I'm
like
done.
You're never going to be really off the grid, but you can get pretty close now.
And then a chip guarantees you have no chance of ever.
You'd have to have a way. You'd have to have like a ripcord. Like you'd have to be able to just pull the chip out anytime you wanted.
Oh, I mean, I think there's a word for that.
What?
It's suicide.
Well, no. Okay, maybe not. Maybe we need a better plan, but yeah. Well, I mean, do you think about where teaching's going to go with this?
Yeah.
You know, do you feel like a career like yours could end up being obsolete quicker than you think?
Not in my age group. I don't think in my age group. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it'll help teaching, but like you're still going to need. I mean, people like to take care of the kids for the day while the parents are doing something.
That's what the robots are going to be for.
You think robots could have that capability though? I don't think.
I don't know.
Kids that age would respect robots. There's something about that human eye.
I've never thought about the respect factor of it.
Respect, especially at that age, for a classroom, managing a class of like 20 kids.
No, I understand, because I only have the one kid at home, and we still struggle with, you know, he's 4, so he just turned 4, so we've definitely entered in this boundary testing phase. You know, like now we're hitting the zone of saying things like, I don't want to do that when you told him to do that kind of stuff. And so the old tricks of, you know, getting them to do things aren't working.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Well, you got to give him 2 positive choices.
Like
Like 2 things that you want him to do anyway, and then he has the illusion of choosing for himself, but it's ultimately going to be something you wanted him to do.
You know, well, it's more minor things. Like crazy high energy. So it's things like if we're eating in public, trying to make sure he's, sitting down, not staring at the table behind him, those types of things, where there is no choice. It's like, we need you to do this. This is what you do.
Just like manners.
Yeah, the stuff where it's like, we got to get on this now, because I don't
right.
want him being older and not breaking those habits yet. So then it's just, all I can do at the moment is when he's not listening, is I'll just remove him. Like, we'll step into another area and talk about it somewhere else, just to try to get him out of that and try to recenter and come back. And it's probably 60-40 that works. He's real high energy. I mean, even when you think you burn the energy off, you just don't. And he's not the type to like nap or rest. He just fights through the tired, right? And it gets rough.
Now, when you're trying to burn off energy, are you burning off physical energy, mental energy? What
either.
Kind of, okay.
Either, yeah. So we're big on, he loves books. We try to incorporate a lot of books. So reading books is always good. If we're playing inside, we try to do things, that are like we have puzzles, we have blocks, like Lego type blocks, building
What's your
things.
favorite book to read to?
We kind of let him pick. Right now, he went back to the Everybody Poops book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then we have like...
Is that his favorite? That's his favorite book?
No, he was into that last week. And then it changes every week. He'll pick out something that he likes.
I've read probably 5,000 children's books in my life, right? Okay. 2 stand alone as being the greatest children's book ever. They're captivating. I'll tell you, the first one is called The Book That Eats People.
The Book That Eats People. Okay.
It's very interactive. It's meta. It's like very self-aware. The book is the book that eats people, and it's like telling you about a book that eats people. And then, it's an incredible book. I mean, I've had it checked out from the library. I'm not even gonna lie, probably for like 6 years straight. I should just buy it at this point. But the one that I did buy, the second one, is called The Book with No Pictures.
Okay.
By B.J. Novak.
Novak?
Yeah,
from The Office.
Yeah. And it's a book. It has no pictures, but again, it's very meta and like funny, and it's like it's. I mean, you sit there and you're like, oh my god, like, I mean, there's all these kids. This book shouldn't be this entertaining, but it's like their favorite book. Like they have a bad day if like that book isn't read to them.
Okay, so this is like a reading out loud book that you'll do for them.
Yeah. I read a lot. Go to the library a lot.
Yeah, we started
Spend
that
a lot of time in the kids section.
Well, we started that when she was pregnant, right? We started reading in the evenings while she was pregnant. Try to build something up in there, hopefully. And then even when he was baby little, we were doing books. And now he can interact a lot more, obviously. But now we're at that hurdle where he's going to really have to start learning, the words himself, like trying to get him to read instead of just looking at the book while we're reading it to him.
Right.
We're trying to cross a little bit of that. It's going well. He's doing letters and everything. It's fine. It's getting there.
Yeah. Get him to like make the letters with like Play-Doh or like saying like actually feel the letters.
Yeah. He's big on, we've got him writing a lot of them. And then we do a lot with chalk, like on the sidewalks. So that's kind of where we're at now. But I didn't think about like a 3D version of a letter.
For sure. Because then they're not just like, they're actually feeling what the letter is, They feel what an A feels like. They can feel what a Q feels like.
Yeah.
QAnon.
Yeah. It's exciting. 3 was the worst. 3 was terrible. Everybody's like, oh, terrible 2s. 3 was hard. 4 is getting better, I feel like. I feel like now he's becoming a little kid and you can work with it a little bit. 3, it's like there were all these emotions and inability to express them properly, I guess maybe is a good way to put it. So then he's just frustrated all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like he had a stroke and can't say the word he's trying to
can't
say.
get it out. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, enough about my kid.
We could do this whole podcast on kids.
No. What I am curious to hear about is I've heard Niaz's story of Cowabunga and how you two got together on this, but I need to know your version of it. I need to see how this lines up.
I met Niaz through you, actually.
How?
The Brave Little
That's
House
right.
show.
Big Thicket.
Yeah, Niaz was there.
Oh.
And I met him for the first time.
I did not even think of that.
I don't think I saw him again until we moved to like Plano, and he lives there, in the like downtown area, and would just see him around, and he was just pestering me a lot about like comedy.
Had he started stand up yet? I can't
No,
remember. He was just enjoying.
He just
comedy.
liked comedy, respected comedy. He appreciated the local scene here. He knew some of the local comics here, and I'd be like we'd be at the Fillmore, and I'd be like eating dinner with my wife Therese, and he'd come up and just like. Just want to talk to us about
do the old Neos thing.
Yeah. Well, how the show went, what's coming up, and he always had this like little twinkle in his eye that I was like, this guy he wants to do comedy, he just doesn't have the balls to do comedy yet. Like somebody just needs to like shame him or like light a fire in his ass and just be like, just do it, dude. Just you talk about it enough, just do it. What do you got to lose? I think everybody should do it at least once.
Okay.
I think everybody could have something to gain from it's like acid, I think everybody should do it just once.
Just one time, yeah.
Yeah, not even like a 5 minute say you just want to go up and do like one joke and then like that's it. I don't even think you need to go do an open mic. Maybe you just want to go tell a joke on stage or something.
Yeah, going to tell a couple jokes at a show that has a crowd that's ready to, like that they were there to watch other good comedy would probably be the way to do it if you had no desire, but you just wanted to feel the rush.
Yeah. So, and that's kind of what effectively has happened with Cowabunga because he did his first open mic, and we lived in the same building at this point in downtown Plano also. So he would kind of he was kind of like our Kramer, me and the wife we'd be doing our thing. He'd just
pop in
and see what's up. And he's a friendly enough guy that he was asking about doing some comedy shows in downtown Plano, and I always thought that downtown Plano would be a great area for like comedy. And then I was just like, yeah, just do it, dude. Just find a place, just do it. And then he found McNeil's, which was like this little tavern that just opened up in the downtown area, and did a couple shows there, and then I think he asked me to like headline his first one, go at the end, and he like packed it out, and I like couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my god, this is awesome. And but it was being ran like an open mic basically. I mean, just way too many comics, just a lot of basically all the comics he knew from doing the open mics at that point.
Right.
And I was like, man, if this show is gonna sustain, like we should like team up and like do something different,
curate it a little
really bit. Really maximize like what this could be. Like
that sounds like, I know you have a music background too, and so does Neos. That sounds like the way you would do old DIY shows where you're like, the more bands we put on, the more people will show up probably. That sounds like the way he probably was thinking about those first comedy shows is put a lot of comics on, we'll probably get a crowd that way.
Yeah, they'll all bring one or two people.
Yeah, but it from my experience, it doesn't really work like that. Like,
no,
it seems like it's very hard to pull fans to a show as a local comic.
Yeah. But I think that's like why people like our show so much is because we put like our motto is kind of like seen over self. So we don't think of it like they're coming to see us. They're coming to see the show, and we provide a great show for them.
Right.
And that's why they keep coming back. But although 2 shows ago I didn't go up just because it was like the show was running a little long, and I was like, it's not even worth it. I don't want people to like get too tired or anything. And I had several people come up afterwards and were like, hey, I brought people. I thought you were going to be going up. We thought we come to these shows all the time. Then I was like, oh, okay, I still need to go up.
Sure.
And at least kind of like, and then we switched it to Niaz was hosting a lot of these shows, and now I've kind of like taken over hosting so he can just kind of focus on comedy right now.
Okay.
Because it's a lot to ask for because these shows are packed.
Yeah.
And he's so new and so green that
I think I've gone to 3, all were at the Fillmore.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah.
And it's been impressive every time.
Yeah, so it can be daunting for somebody like so green, like because I mean it's like it's still a bar show ultimately. I mean it's like I see the pictures look cool, and it's like there's a lot of people, and everybody there is there for comedy, but ultimately it's like it is a bar show.
It is, but there's a little, there's a little different spice thrown in there that makes it different. Because I've gone to lots of bar shows. And there, as a fan, right? And there are, most of the bar shows I've gone to, people are trying really hard to make them great shows. Like, it's not for lack of effort at a lot of them. It's just there's something sad about these shows. I don't know what it is.
Right.
There's just like you walk in and it's like it feels like people are exhausted for some reason.
Yeah.
And then there's these people who don't really understand what's going on there, and then there's people trying to bring them into it, and then a lot of the people at bar mics are in the lower levels of comedy, like they're still learning and working on things, so they don't know how to really draw those people in yet, right? So it's difficult for kind of everyone involved. Y'all's feels a little more free and loose. That was kind of the different feeling. Like, you didn't walk in and go, let's hope we can get these bar people to watch this comedy show. You walked in and, like, I would sit down at one of the only seats available, and I would ask people, like, you guys just come to this bar or whatever. They're like, we're here for the show.
Yeah.
That was probably so. It is a show that is happening in a bar, but it does not feel like a bar show.
98% of the people there are for the show.
That's what I'm saying.
We have people that show up probably 2 hours early to make sure they can get a seat, because it is a free show, and it's like first come, first serve.
Yeah.
And they know they've got burned before on the last month's show and didn't want to get burned again, so they show up super early. So more and more people show up earlier to these shows to make sure that they can get in.
I think that's probably why it feels really daunting to host something like that, because you're getting close to a club level show at a bar.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's like the last one, probably about 150 people at that one.
Yeah, it's a big crowd. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're jam packed. It's like standing room only. There's people standing all on the sides, and but like having done a lot of bar shows, I know that feeling you're describing, and I was like, I don't want this to be anything like that, because I have such reverence for the scene and for like, the level of writing, performing here, that I'm like, if we're going to attract, like people that I respect and I like, wanted to get them on this show, it can't feel like every other bar show that you just described. It has to feel like this. So, yeah, I mean, that one, there's like, in this past one, we started filming them finally.
Oh, you did?
We got a huge backdrop.
Well, I saw the backdrop in a picture. Yeah, I remember y'all talking about grabbing that. And I think I saw that backdrop in a picture and I texted Neil. I was like, are y'all filming anything yet? And I must have texted him just before y'all started then.
Yeah.
All right.
Last one was the first
well, how was that?
So.
A new level of stress added.
It's good, but we got a film guy. Like, I've learned to, like, through doing comedy so like when when I first did comedy, it's like, it's such a loner activity that you're like, oh, only I can do this. But as I've gotten older, it's like, no, you have to collaborate. Like, you need more people. This isn't possible without like Niaz. This isn't possible without like my wife. She does like all the art and all the flyers and stuff. This isn't possible without Rob, our sound guy, who like does all the mixing and he records the audio and like he's got all the levels set perfect. And now in the last show, we even have walk-up music. Everybody had their own walk-up song, so it feels even more like a club now.
Adding a piece here and there every show.
We have 2 interns now.
Hey!
We have 2 like little boys that Niaz knows. That like intern, Aaron and Brandon.
What are they hoping to do more production, or are they hoping to be comics?
They're kids. They're in high school.
Oh, okay.
They're
so this is just
kids.
something cool and fun for them.
There's something. Yeah,
That's really cool.
Yeah, and the first one they went to was like Elwood, and they were like, "This is awesome." And then the second one they went to was the week after at our new location in Garland.
Yeah.
At Intrinsic, and they were like, "Oh, this is awesome,
dude." That probably blew their minds. High school kids don't get to do that shit.
Yeah,
Most clubs are 21 and up, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
they don't get to do that. So that's
so then
cool.
at the Fillmore one, when it was like a club environment almost, they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh my God, what is this? What are we involved in?" But they do a great job. They break down all the stage for us. So then they set up the backdrop. They help us with everything. So
imagine the stories they were telling Monday at school.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
It's like all the things
to be invited in that world like that.
How about to be like 16 and see like a hot waitress carrying beers to a table? That has to blow your mind.
Oh, for sure.
Like
hearing some guy on stage talk about his dick while he's doing it. Like this guy, these are kids.
But when you're in high school and you see somebody who's like 22, like the server or somebody just at the bar or something, that looks like a woman. You know what I mean? Like you're like, this is not what I see at school. Like,
yes, yeah, she is ripe.
But it's like they had to. I mean, meanwhile, the other kids are like, I had a baseball game. Like the weekend, I guess was okay. Yours sounds a lot better. You ran a comedy show.
I think they're liking it. I think they're enjoying it. So
that's pretty cool. It'll only be a couple years. They'll be like chain smoking cigarettes. They'll have an alcohol problem. They'll be like real comics. Like,
yeah. One can hope.
That's exciting though, man. Like I didn't realize you. I knew y'all had plans, but I didn't realize you were starting to get to some of those as quickly as you have. So that's fun. That's exciting.
Yeah, it's picking up steam over here lately.
Yeah.
So you got a couple opportunities that
What do you think you're going to do with the filming? Are you just going to release them as clips, or are you going to try to do something with that?
we'll give them the magic moments. Like, the breakdown is like Elwood right now, the one in McKinney. It has maybe one magic moment per show.
Okay.
And also if you can like have a really good set at Elwood, you're definitely coming to Fillmore, because Elwood is a harder room. Like, I'll just be perfectly honest, it's a harder room. It's less of a magical Fillmore show than it is a well-run bar show.
Okay, fair enough.
So, but a lot of people there, they do show up for comedy, but it's just like it's in a newer area of McKinney, and like all the apartments are like newly developed. The one we have at Fillmore, it's like an established bar. That bar's been around for like 15 years.
Right.
It's like that neighborhood is very insular, and everybody just kind of like wants to walk down for their entertainment too. So it's like kind of perfect.
Yeah, I believe, I could be wrong on my memory, but I believe Fillmore was where I first met Niaz, because he was friends with the guy Nathan who used to do the podcast with me.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I would meet Nathan when he lived in that area at Fillmore for beers, and like Niaz would just like pop in every now and then. I think that's when I first met him. So it's always kind of fun too to know that, these little interactions, like you meeting him at Brave Little Hal, me meeting him through Nathan to help me with the podcast and all this. It's like, it's weird how things just start meshing together like that.
Yeah. Well, the creatives, the people who are in it for the long haul, creatively speaking, I think their paths cross inevitably at some point in the scene. Like, no matter what you do. I mean, I was filming a movie in November.
Yeah.
And the guys that were filming with my wife was taking pictures of BTS stuff for another movie this past weekend, and they happened to be like brought on as like camera assistants.
Okay.
And it's just like that they all ran in the same. So now they're all part of the web too.
Yeah.
Do
y'all like, do you feel any? Okay, I won't say anything about who it is specifically, but like, I enjoy doing my April Fool's joke that says I'm opening a club every year.
Oh, I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
This year I was able to do a fun video, and I had a good time with it.
You stepped it up this year.
But I remember the first year I did it, a certain representative from a certain club sent me a message when they didn't realize they thought it was for real. And it was basically saying, like, basically telling me, like, maybe don't call this a club, maybe call it this, or certain people aren't going to be able to perform there. Like, kind of telling me that, like, if you try to do this stuff, like, maybe some of our people won't be there. And I was like, hey, it's an April Fool's joke. And they're like, oh, cool. Yeah, we were just joking too. And it's like, oh.
They were just joking.
Cool.
A representative of the club. Was this representative also a comedian?
I'm not going to say anything more than that.
I think we all know who it is.
But anyhow, have you felt any kind of heat now that you're running a show that's becoming a little more successful? Like, are when you go to work as a comic, does that cross paths at all, or is it pretty cool still? Because the message I got, it was a little aggressive when I got it, and I was thinking, wow, I don't know this person, I don't know these people, I'm running a little podcast. At the time, I hadn't done anything more than just the podcast, so I was like, this is an interesting message.
Yeah, that is. It's like very territorial on their part.
That's the best way to put it. It was a very territorial message.
Yeah.
Of like, who do you think you are, basically? It's like, all right.
Yeah, but in a way, that kind of lights a fire under your ass more.
I
you're
love
like,
it.
When it really happens, you're like...
yeah, we've definitely got our sights set on a couple things. If we pull the funds together, we would love to open a club. But I'm realistic that there are a lot of things I need to learn before I were to do that. Like, there's a lot about comedy, even though I do this podcast, that I know there's still far more to learn than what I know.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm still just, hey, we'll just keep learning. But if that opportunity does come, we definitely have a couple things in mind where we're like, we will destroy that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was very close to opening up a club during the pandemic.
Oh, really?
I had
down in Plano, I'm guessing.
No, it was in Bishop Arts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like within 24 hours of it happening.
What made you not do it?
A vape shop came in and gave them a better price.
Okay, fair enough. Was it going to be kind of on that? What's the street in Bishop Arts? I can't remember now. That main strip that goes by.
There's Bishop, and that kind of leads to like the Cafe Brazil.
Yeah, but I'm thinking the one that cuts off that's by the barbecue place, and it goes down.
This is Davis.
Davis, thank you.
Yeah. This was on Davis. Yeah.
Okay, that area could definitely use one though.
Yeah, I thought it was because everything there is like very like look. There's the neighborhood bookstore. There's the neighborhood brewery. There's the neighborhood. What I thought, man, a neighborhood comedy place.
Yeah.
People want their local thing. I think a local comedy place would work.
Yeah, and for
really
people who don't
good.
know, that's on the south side of I-30, which has traditionally always been the cutoff area from the rest of Dallas, the neglected area in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
So putting more stuff over there like that would be a great idea.
I actually, now that I think about it, I even remember when it didn't happen, feeling kind of bummed and going to a Fillmore and seeing Niaz. This was before Niaz was doing comedy, and I told Niaz, man, I was like, man, we were this close to like getting a club, and he was like, if that ever happens, let me know. I would run this. I got all this experience in like restaurant managing and all this. I would.
Would you have done it with would you have had to have alcohol and food right out the gate, or how were you thinking about doing that?
So we were gonna have a food truck, and we were just gonna like have him like almost like have like a permanent place for that food truck to be at.
So kind of like the truck yard.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah,
just the one food truck though, because there wasn't that much parking available. But like the building was almost like divided into quadrants. So we were gonna have like comedy on the like lower level, and then like the upper level, like one room would like be like a green room, or like like a room if like we brought like out of town people, like a condo almost to stay at, and then the other one we were just gonna do something that was like, something that didn't need like a lot of foot traffic and was like a appointment only, just like to rent that room out for something.
I got you. Yeah, just something to have some income.
Yeah, like a tattoo parlor, or like a massage place or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just gonna worry about just the food truck. I didn't want to make any food in there. I just wanted it to be like comedy, and
Yeah, that's well, I mean, if you had a taste for it, and that means you got to try to do it again, right?
It might happen.
Yeah.
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 I mean, there's definitely a spot in Plano that, like, if it goes under, I would definitely be thinking about.
Man, I'm glad to hear somebody doing that little game in their mind of like, I like this particular building or this particular spot. You know what I mean? Like, I love sizing these areas up in Dallas that I really like, where it's like, that would be perfect for this. If something ever happens there, maybe that would be the kick that I would need,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's great. There's like, McKinney's cool because there's all these like cellars and basements that I didn't even realize were there. And I was like, man, there's so many cool opportunities for a club there. But they already got the Comedy Arena and the downtown square.
The more I learn, and again, maybe I still have more to learn, right? But I don't think that's an issue. Like I was talking to some comics just about open mics. Like what would people want in an open mic scene around here? And one of their biggest complaints was our clubs are so far apart that it's hard to, you might do one thing that night, and they would love to do more than one thing. And
at a club, but I mean,
no, yeah, but I mean,
so many mics.
Yeah, but it started making me think of like, okay, you've got Dallas Comedy Club in Deep Ellum. I don't know that it would really hurt them if you had another comedy club down there, right? If you did put another one near Hyenas, another one near Improv, because I think about all these other businesses, right? Like you'll have a Target next to
TK's
Walmart.
Is putting that to the test.
Well, there you go. Yeah. You have but you have like Target next to Walmart, right? You'll have like a Chili's near an Applebee's. It's like
Home Depot, Lowe's.
Yeah, like I don't know. I mean, there's like 7 million people here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, can't we both get 200-300 people?
Right.
I mean,
I'm with you because the city's only getting bigger. The Metroplex is only getting bigger.
Yeah,
so
it seems
like,
very possible, and it seems like you could have this great symbiotic relationship with another club of like, here's what we do on Tuesdays. What are y'all doing on Tuesdays? We got this person coming in. They're coming in on this day. You want them to pop in this night too? Like, I feel like
I guess in Austin they do a good job of coexisting there on 6th Street.
Yeah,
there's like 3 clubs down there now. So.
Yeah, I think we are dealing with a little bit of negative competition around here in some ways.
Yeah.
Where I think you could open it up pretty much anywhere you wanted, and if somebody else has a problem with it, I wouldn't worry about them. Right, just run your thing well. I think is the only thing that matters. And but yeah, I think literally you could put a comedy club right next to another comedy club, like literally next door, and it would probably still work if you ran it right.
Yeah, I mean, I have no reason to disagree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the cities, the market's definitely there.
It's huge here. It's huge.
Yeah. But to answer your question of if I'm feeling any heat.
Oh yeah.
What do you mean heat? What are we talking heat?
Well, you're a performer.
Yeah.
Do you feel like anything has changed now that you are also putting on shows whenever you go to perform? Is it still like the, hey, great to see you, or does anything get strange?
Are you talking about like maybe other performers that want to be on?
Either performers, venues, you know?
Venues, it's fine because, I mean, you know, Backdoor's home and then the Improv is home. And, you know, they love it.
That's
know?
good.
That, you know, the guys that run the Improv, they've only like tell me all the great things they hear about the show and how they're so like proud that that's happening. The other club, you know, I don't really give a shit. So
We don't have to say the name. We know.
Well, I mean, like I this past year I like looked at our flyers, and you know, we had over 50 different comics in the city, like on our shows last year in one way or another. So interacting with like comics, like, I mean, most people that I would interact with, I would say they've been on a show anyway. So they already know that they're like in rotation, or there's somebody who like we like working with, or, you know, that, you know, we want to have back. And that's like, also, the awesome thing about getting another location is that now there's more opportunities for more comics to work throughout the month and different comics. So, that being said, like some of the like the Fillmore show, because it was going so long, like we're going from 4 to 3 comics, because it was running a little long. And then, you know, like people show up and they hang out, and maybe if the energy's off, I'm like, man, you want to come up and do 5 minutes? Like, you know, so like if you're around, the chances of you getting asked to do a guest spot like goes up exponentially. And so I just want to make sure that there's enough time for like emergency guesties if we need them, based on who's around, without like wearing the audience out, you know, just based on different people's energy, who's in the room, like comic wise, what I think the show could need. So, but what I was going to say is, so like the list of like 50 comics, that's like comics in the city that have like a strong like 10 to 15 minutes, you know, and then that number gets whittled down when you're like, okay, we can only do 3 comics on the show, and we need people to have like a strong 20 to, you know, 22, 25. So that number like I want as many comics to be on the show as possible. I'm rooting for comics to succeed because I want them to have an opportunity to do the show. But like, you know, I just can't just put anybody on the show.
I hear you.
You know, but if you're strong enough, I'm gonna do it. But it's not even about being strong. Like, there are strong people out there that I have not asked to do the show because their energy is not going to work for what ultimately, like I was saying before, is a bar show. At a club, everybody's giving you their attention anyway. The attention is on you no matter what. Like at a bar show, no matter how like well run it is, you still have to demand the attention from people. Like, so there are, you know, very strong comics in the scene that like, because I've seen with my like own 2 eyes, some of the strongest comics in the scene that you could think of have some of the worst bombs at Fillmore. Okay, and that's when I had to like readjust like who I was having on these shows, because I was like, man, you were a sure thing. Like,
I won't say the name, but I have seen someone there who I know for a fact is a very good comic struggle. Yeah, and yeah, you're right. Now that you say that, I remember that person very specifically, and it's like, oh yeah, they were telling stuff that I know kills really hard.
Oh, 99% of the time.
But they have an energy, like you said, maybe that was the drop in that. Because I was thinking about that a lot since that show, that that person is good, and I couldn't size up what was really off with them. And maybe that's what it is.
That's the like, as I learn and think more about comedy, I'm like, it's not an art or a science, and it's not even subjective. It's like, comedy is objective. You're either making them laugh or you're not. Like, I don't have to think you're funny, but if the whole room is saying you're funny that night. Like,
right.
Objectively, you are funny. Like, so it's and the funniest person can go up there and not be funny that night. And objectively, they are not funny right now. So, like, it's not like about a law of averages. It's about this moment in time at this stage.
Yeah. What have you done for me lately?
Yeah. I mean, so it's I don't know, but again, like I want Comics, new comics out there, please. I want you to do this show. Okay?
What do you think the energy is? When you said the energy they need for that type of show.
I can just tell you what the energy is not.
Okay.
The energy is not meek. The energy is not. There's only one person I've seen been able to bring meek, and it's because they're like just brilliant, and it was Tyler Elliott.
Yeah.
And just because he's just
been used to being that. He is the puzzle piece that doesn't fit on almost every show. You know what I mean? He's used to playing that part now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very artful how he comes in with the worst energy and makes it very funny.
That's the word to describe it. Yeah.
I've seen him come up and get so many groans, or maybe not like audible groans, but just like people just uncomfortable, like, what the fuck is this? For about 10, 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And then watching him bring them back around by the end of that set is just...
He knows how to release the tension.
Dude,
like, it's just tension, and he knows when to release the tension, not just how, but like when. Mm-hmm. And some people are maybe just so committed to their set that they're not paying attention of when tension is like happening without them realizing it, because they may be used to like doing these sets at clubs where that tension might not occur, but like here at this bar show, like it's gonna be there.
Yeah.
So
the Fillmore has always been a little extra interesting to me as well, because it's got something that a club and even most bar shows don't have, which is that rail in front of you guys. There's always a little boundary right between you two, and it almost makes you feel like you're watching someone in a cage for a moment, you know. And there's nothing to be done; like it still works.
We drape them with our merch now. We put our Got Joke shirts over it to kind of cover it. And
but I don't even know that it's the fact that it's a like a bar, like a railing. I think it's just you rarely see things in front of performers anymore, so there's a little. I don't know if that makes it more difficult or if it does anything at all, but I think it is interesting because I think a fan would probably, or somebody just watching a show would feel like there's a little bitty separation, like I'm a little safe on this side. So if you do drift off and start having conversation, like it's a little easier to do that, right?
Right.
Whereas at a club, it's harder to do because there's no set. You can just lean up in front, hey, real quick and get their attention, and it's like, oh yeah, that's right, we're watching this thing. So I could see that being an extra challenge for somebody who's not used to commanding a crowd.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the name of the game at that show.
Yeah.
But I don't want to, I hate like gatekeeper mentality, but ultimately that's kind of what I am working with, as somebody who like books shows and like produces shows. But there's one person that will never do the show no matter what. But there's everybody else. It's like, I want them to have an opportunity. So like, I want you to get, good enough to come do this show. So there's nobody that I'm like trying to exclude.
Yeah. Well, what's your definition of gatekeeping then? Because to me, gatekeeping would be, someone's good, you're not doing it no matter what, right? Rather than, hey, here, like, if you're laying out standards, here's what I would like to see if you'd like to do these shows. That doesn't feel like gatekeeping, does it? That's just, we built this thing here, here's what we like to do.
Yeah. That's how that's how I would view it. We do have standards, but I think if you're not on this side of the equation and you just see, oh, this person got to be on a Cowabunga show, or, oh man, I started right around the time as this person, they already got to do a Cowabunga show, like, how come I'm not,
That's an interesting...
Who's the guy running? This guy, what is he? He doesn't like me. He doesn't watch me. It's like, I go to open mics. I watch. I pay attention. And I am always asking, too, about other people on shows and seeing, is this person really funny? I'm seeing this person pop up a lot. So I try to keep an ear on the ground.
Yeah.
And pay attention to what's happening with a lot of the post-pandemic comics.
Yeah. So I've just now gotten to the point where I've seen like a cycle or two of new faces, and then the people who stick with it and the people who fall off. Right?
Yeah.
I've just gotten a taste of that, and it is interesting. And then, but because of that, I've gotten to see people who, through the open mics, when they stick with it, you watch them take those little baby steps of growth, and you're like, okay. This person who I thought was pretty dicey before and not very funny, and now I'm seeing that they're correcting things whatever that means, right?
Right.
But you see them just working on it, and it's
Right,
like,
right, right.
okay, so you do care more.
Well, that's it. You can
Yeah.
tell very early who treats it like work and who treats it like a
Yeah.
vacation.
Yeah.
People who are like, man, I'm here to try to get funnier. I'm trying to get funnier. Or people are here like, I had a rough day. Now I get to cut off some steam and drink and go up and tell a joke. Like, you can tell very early on who's here for work and who's here for vacation.
I feel like I've learned a little just because now I watch people and I go, that's not funny, but I can see that it's going to be funny. Like, I see where you're trying to get to something here. It just hasn't found the you haven't found the little connecting pieces yet. But like the premise that you're dealing with, all that, it's going to be funny. It's just not funny yet. And so now I get more excited to where, okay, I haven't seen this person in 5 or 6 months. And so you get to see the leaps instead of the baby progress,
Mm-hmm.
But it's exciting to go, I think they're going for something like that. And then later on, see if that was it or not. And you're like, sure enough, they were going for something in that general area, and it's now funny. And rather than just judging them quickly and going like, ugh, they suck,
Yeah.
I think that's what's been really fun about being a fan and going to open mics rather than just shows and watching. Just the appreciation you get for how difficult it is to craft a single good joke. When you watch a little bit of that process. And then when you see someone stringing together 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes, and you see that growth.
Yeah, material is so precious.
Dude.
I mean, it's hard to come by. You're just like constantly like sifting through shit until you find like a little, thing of gold, and you're like,
Yeah.
you got all this shit on your hands now.
I would like more comedy fans to go to those open mics. I think everybody would love it more. Like, I think the comics that are working on things would, like, maybe you'd loosen up a little because there's the potential for bigger laughs, right? When they're filled up. Like, a couple of the mics do a really good job of packing it out. But then also, I just think that, like, love it or hate it, that's maybe one of the benefits of something like Kill Tony is you're seeing some of that process, right? I think if you can go to local open mics, and almost like you were saying when people were going to your Fillmore shows and they were kind of expecting you to be there, it's like if you're kind of expecting to see faces performing at these open mics and seeing progress, that there's an excitement to that that's kind of hard to describe.
Oh yeah, and that's, I got to bring it too, because I'm trying new material every time I'm doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I'm doing these shows, I'm trying to do like a new 5 to 7.
Yeah,
and I still want it to be,
So that's a new 5 to 7, like once a month, right?
Yeah.
So a little over a minute a week.
Yeah. And so, you still want it to be up to the standards of the show, but also like, the reason we do the show too is like to have people that we like and that we're fans of be able to come up and feel like there's no pressure to like try something new that they may be not ready to try out at a club weekend or something. So for them to be able to, come in, it's low stakes show and just work out, Lawrence leading up to the special, he swung by to so many
Thank you,
Cowabunga
by the
shows.
way. Thank you.
Fillmore and Elwood. He just came up there and just worked some shit. And you could see it change like from the first time to the last time. And I don't know, I saw the special. The special was good.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
you guys know, y'all have been around each other. You've known Lawrence longer than I have. So,
yeah, he started like right before me.
okay, yeah. I think he's a great example of, he is an example of the many comics we have in his situation, where I think there's a lot of y'all. Remind me, how long have you been here now?
9 years in
9 years.
comedy and stand-up. Yeah.
So I just had Andy Franklin on. He was at a 9-year mark. Lawrence is at 9 or 10 years. And the list goes deeper of people who are at that kind of 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 mark that are very good comics around here. And it feels like that length of time is where either people are going to really fall off. Like, I'm sick of I've done this a decade. Maybe what you want to have happened hasn't happened yet. Or maybe you're just tired. Maybe you're just burnt out, And if they're good comics, I'm hoping they don't do that here locally, because then you start thinking about, pick a lot of your big names, your masters of comedy, right? A lot of them really didn't get their due till like 15, 20 years in.
Oh, yeah, for
right?
sure. Yeah,
so, and then when you hear guys like Bill Burr or Joe Rogan, when he has guests on that talk about being in comedy any length of time, they talk about that 10-year mark of like, okay, great. Now you finally got the experience needed to become a really good comic. Like basically they describe it as that 10 years being like you learned how to be funny now, right?
Yeah.
Now we're going to build on that.
Yeah, for sure. There's truth to that for sure.
Yeah, and
dude,
so
I mean, I was 3 years into comedy before I even got a social media.
Oh, okay.
Because I was just
Smart.
like,
yeah.
I only want to be focused on being funny. Before I was like, I need to promote myself and try to get on shows, and I was like, so I had a flip phone. Yes, like Shiva Ari, he remembers that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was 3 years, and then I remember doing a show at the Granada, and somebody came up to me afterwards, and I was with my now wife, girlfriend at the time, and they were like, "Man, what's your Instagram? We were following you." And I was like, I don't have any of that. And she was like, "Now's the time.
Now's the time.
Now you need to get it."
Yeah, I mean, well, exactly. There's comics like yourself all throughout this scene who it's time to start doing some of those things. You've already done it yourself, right? You've done the one at the Improv. You've done the one at Backdoor, putting an album out, right? And it's like, I think it's just time to start taking these steps and start putting kind of DFW more on the map. And it feels like we've got several people here locally that are all kind of doing these different things, like not necessarily comics, but people trying to produce things, right? Like you guys putting on your shows and other people trying to produce specials and albums and things. And I feel like we're going to have a nice little collective come up as all these people at the 9-10 year mark keep progressing into 12, 13, 14, 15,
Yeah. I've long thought it's going to be the scene that kind of comes up as a whole.
It should be, right?
But then Ralph kind of just blew that theory out of the water.
He's an anomaly, right?
But again, he's the product of this scene, though.
100%.
He came in, saw what the scene was about, saw the level of writing, performing here, and was like, I got to put in the work. And he did. Every time I saw Ralph, he was working on a new joke. He was always writing something. He saw what the scene had to offer him. He made the most of it, and he took advantage of all the opportunities that came his way. And we're proud of him. But again, he's a product of the scene.
Yeah,
like
100%. And
yeah.
I think right now he's still. By the way, he's just having this. It's well deserved, but he's having this crazy lightning in a bottle moment. Like when you think the roller coaster is going to start coming down a little and slow down, he's still pushing strong. It's like it's still clicking up to a higher tier, and it's like, damn, I thought he was on, like, he's going to have a year or two of just like, it's insane, and then it would slow down a little bit, and then maybe go insane.
Oh, no,
and
dude.
it's just been going.
I saw him Halloween weekend in Denver at, I went to go see Mark Rebier at Red Rocks.
Yeah, that's right. I remember texting you about that.
And then I was just looking to see who was in town that weekend, and I saw Ralph was going to be at Comedy Works.
Nice.
So I just like texted him. I was like, "Yo, dude, what's up?" And he's like, "Come on, swing by." And he was telling me he's working on like 4 hours.
Good for him. Good.
So there's no slowing down.
Well, I can't imagine all of the stuff that's been happening in his life over the last couple of years now that he could draw hilarious material from, because it's got to be so wild in all these unique ways you can't imagine, right? But yeah, you're right. He's a product of this scene, and when he's able to, I've noticed he does come back. He does shows here. He hops on things unannounced, and I was at a Hyena show that he dropped in. I think he was getting ready for. Maybe it was one of his Tonight. No, I don't think it was Fallon. I don't remember. He was getting ready for something, because I remember hearing those jokes later. But it was like, it's awesome that he's still just popping in his hometown, working on stuff when he can, So I think he'll ultimately pay back the scene when he's able to. You know what I mean? It's going to come around in a really positive way, I think, right at the time that all these other things are rising up too. It's got to be that way. There's too many good people for it to be 1 or 2 or 3 people.
Yeah, cause doing this, like, I've made a list of like people and how much time that I think that they can do and how much time I've seen them able to, what I can count on from them. And yeah, there's a nice handful of comics here that could easily headline any club in the country based on, having like 45 minutes of great material that works.
Yeah.
And, there's 5 times more that could feature anywhere, because they have a strong 30. They have a 45, but they have a strong 30.
Yeah.
That's just like proven and battle tested. And
I think that's what it is. I think we have a lot of people who maybe, I don't know, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe in the past, a lot of people where it gets to this point where you guys are at, like I said, I think they hit a little bit of burnout, and it's hard to stick with it. It's hard to justify sticking with it, right?
Yeah.
If you're not just in love with it.
Yeah, but
And-
that's you. I mean, you got to be
yeah.
in love. I mean, I remember Linda asking me very early on when I started working the weekends at Backdoor, and we kind of like would butt heads a lot. But she was like, what's your goal for? What do you even want to do in comedy? And I had to think about it for a second. I was like, I just want to make as many people laugh as possible. That's really the goal. Like, with that will probably come being able to like, sell out a club or something. Like I did that, but the goal isn't to sell out a club. The goal is to make as many people laugh as possible.
Yeah.
And if I stop, I can't do that.
Yeah.
So I've just never lost sight of that original goal that she kind of asked me about. And that's the thing with Cowabunga too, is like, we're making our own opportunities. Like these shows, they're on Wednesdays. They're off night shows. They're Wednesday shows. So we have, things are going on the weekend. It doesn't interfere. But it's nice to count on yourself for that like extra practice or that motivation, because when you do, if a show goes bad, you've got that bad taste in your mouth until the next time you get on stage. So to be able to like create your own opportunity of like when that next time is getting on stage is a driving force for why we're.
Well, and it seems like it's a good. You're filling in a gap that's missing, like there needs to be a space between open mic and bar show and between club. Like you said, people can either work on material, but you've got a crowd that's a little hotter than some of these other smaller shows, but it's not big enough where there's a lot on the line if the joke doesn't go, as planned.
Right, right.
Like maybe like another tier of like, I can work things out here also. Because I mean, how realistic is it that you go from an open mic to working at a club? It's got to be difficult, right?
You want to know my experience?
Yeah, sure.
I was 6 months into comedy and doing Backdoor on a Thursday, and it was June. It was very hot, and they at the old Backdoor at the hotel, the door was. They cracked the side door open because the AC was off, so they just had to get something to get some of the hot air out. And somehow or another, a cricket made its way into the club and was sitting like on the front table, like on the table. And like a couple of comics went up and like didn't say anything. And I was like, oh, I mean, like the comedy cosmos aligned. It was an eclipse of comedy. I was like, how can this be written in the stars like this? I would go up and I would do jokes that weren't working. And I would just hold the mic down to the cricket after every time. And it was eruption. I've never had a set that good in my life. And I don't think I'll ever be able to recreate that magic again. But Linda and Jan, R.I.P. Jan, they were like, man, that was incredible. Can you start working weekends here? Can you start seating people? Or, at first I was just seating people, lighting, working the money, counting all that just to get 3 minutes of stage time. And for the first probably 6 months, maybe a year of working weekends at Backdoor, every time I left, I felt like I was getting yelled at by like Linda and Jan, and we were just like butting heads all the time. And I'm like, why do you keep inviting me back then? Like if you guys don't like what I'm doing on stage. And they were just like, why can't you do what you did that one night in June? And I'm like, I can't just,
Do you want me to bring crickets in?
recreate, let loose crickets in your comedy club. I mean, so that's how I kind of just lucked myself into working weekends. And then when I started too, I was the youngest working Backdoor by about 20 years.
Okay.
It was old heads that have been doing it, since like the 80s and 90s that like kind of came up with Linda. A lot of them have died since then. And so that's kind of like how I cut my teeth of like hanging around like these comics who have been like doing it for 15, 20 years and like just trying to keep up with these guys. And then the pandemic came and scared a lot of those old guys away. And so there was this new roster at Backdoor that's showing up that was like way younger. And that's when I kind of had to like reassess how I interact with comics too, because I think my situation was just different, where I was just used to, like that's how I grew up in comedy, was around these like old heads who were like just busting balls and just like calling people out if a joke sounded too similar to somebody else's joke or like, and then I've learned with some of these post-pandemic comics that you kind of they're just not. It's just different. They're just different.
Like,
so it's a different vibe.
Like if you were to do those things you just said, like they're not taking it as like a
You're the asshole. You're the asshole. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. That has to translate though. Like you know, like you're hard on the ones that you love, kind of thing, right? Like surely they, like you're not just being like you fucking suck, quit comedy. Like you're probably busting their balls about something where it's like you're encouraging growth. You're encouraging like you're part of this, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well,
but
just fucking
but
don't be weak.
There's you know, there's a weakness. I mean, yeah, comedians are. I mean, they're very fragile. Comedians are very fragile and very emotional.
Yeah,
and
but
they
I
have to pretend like they don't care, but they care. You can't just like bitch about like hair in the shower for 10 minutes and not be a fragile human being. You know?
But isn't that part of? I would think that's part of the process, right? Like if you can't be judged by your own in a way that's ultimately positive, even if it's harsh, right? How are you going to be judged by 200 strangers that don't give a fuck about you, right? Like, shouldn't you, like, you should always get the pass as long as there's something helpful
for
at
sure.
the root of it, you know?
Oh yeah.
You know,
and that's a legitimate worry I have, that like kind of the new standard for what people, because now there's people coming into comedy now that look up to these people that maybe just started comedy like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And they're thinking that that's how they do, because they see them get on shows at like, you know, these other clubs or something. And they're like, oh, that's kind of what the standard is here. And I'm like, that's a new standard. And that standard does not get recognized by people who do Cowabunga shows. That's all I can tell you.
So I'm 38. I've probably over the last 5 or 6 years, I feel this like swarm of just, you know, like understanding what my father and his father, the way they bitched about younger generations. I'm finally seeing how every generation does feel like it gets weaker, softer, lazier. And that bar you're talking about just keeps dropping lower and lower and lower.
Yeah.
And I don't mean anything crazy, just like basic standards of, you know, like you said, if you're gonna pick comedy, for instance, it's like the only way to tell if it's a good set is what you said earlier, right? Did they all laugh? If they were all laughing, then it was the best set you could have done, right? Like they were all laughing. And I'll see some of these smaller shows because I'll go in with a pretty open mind, right? Like I don't ever judge anybody off one show. And you'll see people at some of these, and you can tell there's just not a standard, right? And it may not even be just the performer. It might be the way the venues run. It might be the way the sound is done, the lighting, anything. Like, did they vacuum the fucking floor today, right? And it just feels like things all the time that collective standard is dropping lower and lower and lower. And it starts making you think about anything like a grandparent ever said about like your fucking generation. Like, you know what I mean?
Sure, but I'm not
you don't want to think that way, but it is.
Right.
It's like I think that personally, in my experience so far, that is what truly is holding our scene back. I'm not saying any one particular person, any one particular club, any one thing. But I do think these people who are ultra successful at comedy have very high standards of what they're going to put out, right? And I think that's what we got to get to, is where we go, yeah, there's a level of like, it's good enough, that's fine, that's going to be okay. Now, how do we ratchet it up to that next tier of like, good enough's just not going to cut it anymore. Like, we're trying to do something real special around here. Let's keep it going higher. You know, let's get above good enough.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't think it's any one thing. And it's like, I have my own work in that area to do, you know, but I think just maybe a collective understanding of like, that was fine, but we're going for more than that if we can.
Yeah.
You know?
And I don't want the like ragging on, not ragging, but like holding post-pandemic comics accountable for like, I don't want you to think it's like tied to an age thing.
No.
Because they could be older than you, but like,
I just mean
it's how many years into comedy they are. Like,
I just mean a new generation of comics, like
right.
not an age.
It's not necessarily like they're younger.
No,
you know
it's the ones who just recently started now.
Yeah.
And there's rules to learn, right? There's not even rules, but there's just. It's always funny to me, like when you see a new batch. I never noticed how quickly everyone goes to the same like horrible premises when they start comedy. You know?
Oh yeah,
It's Somebody should really do like a research paper on why people start off with like these versions of dick jokes and stuff at the very beginning. Like
Right.
it's almost universal, right?
Yeah.
And it never goes as well as they thought it would, and then they pivot to something else and get better, or they double down and they still don't get laughs. You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, you just see that. It's probably, I mean, like you said, if a lot of those old performers dropped off at the pandemic, then you lost a whole generation of knowledge that could have still been, handed down.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, man. That's why you got to preserve a place like Backdoor. Ultimately, that kind of
Backdoor's
keeps
my
those
favorite.
values, instills those values in the comics that like you can always tell a Backdoor comic because they're just more polished than anybody else, and they're just they take it more seriously, and they have those standards, because Linda's built those standards in.
What I can tell now is I may not know that you're like I may not be able to go like, oh, they're great, they must have been through the Backdoor philosophy or whatever. But what I have noticed is if I hear someone talking shit about Backdoor's standards, they're usually not very good. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like, I'll catch that quick. Like if I see somebody going like, oh, that fucking place or this or that, or they told me to do this and I told them to go fuck themselves. Usually when I see their set, it's like, oh, not that funny.
Right.
Not that funny. So there is something there, I think. And man, I've been to some shows now. Like we were out in, me and a buddy of mine went to watch a show out in Tyler at that comedy club out there, Rose City. And, that's a small room. And we went to, Scott Bedgood was doing like, the headlining show, the last on the list show, right? But he's from that area. So he was like, I'm going to get, a bunch of buddies out. It's going to be a packed show. It'll be awesome. And this weird thing happened where the younger friends that were all going to go to his show didn't buy the tickets quick enough. So the older people that knew him all bought tickets and packed out the show. So where he thought he was going to have this demographic of something between, mid to late 20s to upper 30s, it was more like upper 30s to like 50s, 60s.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Totally different crowd, right?
Oh yeah.
And the show was fine, but there were a couple comics who had dirtier, tougher material that audience just was not having. And that's where you saw some of that Backdoor philosophy where, because a lot of people talk shit because Backdoor wants clean work, right? They didn't have that skill set to jump back on of like, okay, I can clean it up if I need to. It's like they just had never really worked that muscle. And I think that's what they kind of teach over there, it seems like, is you're going to have this as a base at least.
Yeah,
you
for
can
sure.
come back to this if you need to,
Yeah, because the base will be foolproof in Universal. The base will be, able to work if you can work it. It will able to work in any room.
Yeah.
Like you got to have a box so that way you know where the edge is, what you can boundaries you get. If there's no box, it's I don't know if I told you this last time, but like I remember a joke I used. I couldn't say it at Backdoor because it was dirty. I cleaned it up and made it more dirty somehow.
Oh.
Because I had to clean it up. So it was about like when I worked at Freebirds and I got fired for like sticking my balls in the Spanish rice. And like, but I couldn't say that at Backdoor. But I switched out dipping my balls in the Spanish rice to impregnating Spanish rice. And simultaneously, it becomes cleaner and dirtier at the same time.
Right.
And I can say it at a place like that, But it's because of that place's standards that I was able to, and it's funnier now.
Yeah.
Like, that's a funnier thought.
Impregnate. Such a better word choice.
Yes, it's the diction. Diction matters. Diction takes you.
Oh, man.
Diction can make or break the joke for sure.
That's definitely one thing Backdoor has that, maybe some other places just don't quite, like they don't quite have their Linda. Like you got to have somebody that really cares about it and can give that real advice. And then because she is a comic.
That's why.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Anything coming from her would be, if I had, 20 years of running a club, but I've never stepped on that stage, the advice is probably going to be fine. But if you're never on that stage, do you really know?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Backdoor's great, and if you treat it right, and it's like batting practice, then it can help you just hit these different milestones in comedy and kind of just work your way up the totem pole. If you know how to write, I mean, if you're good to backdoor will be good to you. So like,
do you think you could make?
If you're good to the scene will be good to you ultimately.
Do you think you could make backdoor bigger, where it can make a lot more money, but it still feel like backdoor? Or do you think part of it is just it's that size of a club?
Yeah, I think as long as you had like a dingy kind of vibe, and the ceilings were low enough, yeah, I think you could probably make like 150 seat like backdoor.
Yeah, because I want to see that club grow and become just. I would love for that to be the place that people talk about when they come to DFW. Whether it's a comic, whether like to be like, you got to go by there. You know, you like if somebody's coming in to do whatever they're calling the theater in Grand Prairie now, they're like, listen, it's worth taking a trip into Richardson and checking out that club for a minute. You know, and I just wonder if they'll ever be able to do that being as small as they are. Because I've only ever seen them at the Doubletree location and the new location. I didn't see anything before that. But there is always a little bit of magic at that place that just doesn't exist at the other ones.
Yeah, because of the intimacy, for sure. That's kind of caked into the equation.
Yeah, but isn't that the thing that makes it hard to... It's hard to make money when you only have a few tables, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah. But that place is about the art. That's,
I know, but my fear is it becomes so much about the art that they can't pay the bills and it goes away.
That's a legitimate fear.
You know, that's the fear. It's like, I just want it to be
But I think they're in with a good
enough.
group at the line right now that I think, that it's a good relationship that they have with their
but
landlord.
So much of that is from what Linda and Jan built, right? And now we have the reality that, Jan has passed. And it's like, what happens if something happens to Linda? Who keeps that club going?
I thought about this too. Like Linda doesn't even book it on the weekends anymore.
Oh, really?
She's passed that responsibility on.
Okay.
So and for that, I think the shows have actually. Linda's so nice but she I don't want to say this delicately. the shows were running too long. There was too many comics on the shows. That's ultimately, and then now they're shorter and people are doing longer time. But people are they might be a little upset that they're not getting on as regularly. But
no, I think it's better. I mean, I've definitely been to some of those shows at. I guess it would have been at Doubletree where they might have gone for like 2 hours.
That's too long.
And it's too long.
It's way too long. I mean, the Cowabunga shows at hour 20, I can already feel that they're getting a little too long. Yeah,
we talked about that a lot, Lawrence and I, whenever he wanted to film, about just the philosophy of what is a good length, because the old standards were kind of made off of, like when Comedy Central was doing stuff, it's like you were thinking 20 minutes, half hour, right? You were thinking blocks.
A TV block.
Yeah, versus what it really is for a show. And that's kind of what we were all dancing around was an hour. An hour feels like if you do it right, that is perfect, If it goes a little longer and it's just extra, that's great. But something about just leaving them wanting more, kind of,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's kind of what we're trying to do from here on out with our show. We don't want to overkill.
Yeah.
Because the comics are great that we put on, and we want to make sure that every comic has a potential for that. Like I was saying earlier, at the Elwood show, maybe there's one magic moment per show. At Fillmore, there's a magic moment every set. So the fact that we're like filming them now, we can like capture those. And but my inbox is full with like people requesting, hey, any way I can get on the show, And I think a lot of the thing too is because of how many, because it's a lot of the people that like Niaz started doing open mics with, and I think they kind of like look at him and be like, oh man, he gets to do these like shows in front of all these people that are like well run. Like I should be able to do this too. I started right before him, but you didn't make that opportunity for yourself. I don't know what to tell you. I mean,
yeah, that's there's a lot of that goes around, right? Like I've been doing this the same amount of time as someone. It's like, well, that doesn't really matter.
The time's gonna pass no matter what. I know people a year in that are funnier than people who have been doing it 10 years. I mean, who do you think's got a better chance of getting on the show?
Yeah. Yeah, Niaz he's a character, man.
Oh yeah, we love him.
Yeah, it's
He's kind of like, we have like a Steve Wozniak, Steve Jobs dynamic between the two of us.
I haven't pegged him down yet. As long as I've known him, I haven't really pegged it down, that Niaz thing that's going on there. I like him. I like what he does. But there's a little, like it's almost like you're waiting for the catch, right? Because he's very nice, he's very generous, and you're waiting for him to like the end of the night, and you're like, hey, but like if you could loan me your car for a while.
Oh, there is that vibe, yeah.
But it hasn't happened yet. He hasn't asked me for any money or anything yet. So it's like, no, I think he's just a nice guy. Because I asked him to help with the audio at Hyenas when we filmed Lawrence's thing, just running cables and stuff. It's like, it's not anything fun, and but it made such a big difference in actually being able to get the recording done. Like,
right. I mean, he's an advocate for the scene. Ultimately, that's what it comes down to.
He helped me with that Big Thicket record that you guys met
yeah.
at. He helped with that too. And
his name is misspelled on the back.
His is correct.
His is correct.
Josh, fuck. I'm sorry, Josh. It's either Binkley or Blinkley. I can't remember. Whatever it is on the record is off.
Okay.
And I felt so bad because he's the nicest fucking guy. He's really cool. And I thought I triple checked the names, and it's wrong. And I was
sorry to bring that up.
So I was like, well. Now I was like, if we ever repress it, it'll just be a cool rare, like, but you got that was a first run,
Yeah,
but
be a relic.
Yeah, but no, he was down to help, and there were some things out of our control that made us have a very late setup time. And if he wasn't there, we probably wouldn't have been able to record it.
Oh wow!
I mean,
it comes in clutch.
Yeah, it does. I told him, hit me up when I need to return the favor, and he hasn't yet. So I'll tell you the same. It's like, if y'all give me enough notice, I have a kid, so I need a little notice.
Right.
But yeah, just for that, it's like, if you need me to run a camera or something, I don't mind. Like, let me know.
Yeah, maybe one day. I mean, with filming the shows now, like, I don't know what this is going to turn into. If I had to. Because now we're getting attention from like outside DFW. So
yeah,
like,
now you have a spot that's
like
it's worth dropping into before someone has a weekend
on
show.
The first show we did in Garland at Intrinsic, we had two guys from Austin, one guy from Austin and one guy from Nashville. Zach Townsend from Nashville and Dean Stanfield from Austin.
Nice.
And I mean, Dean was hilarious. I think he won like second funniest comic in Austin last year or something, and he was unbelievable. He had the magic moment of the night. He was so good. Man, this next show coming up at Fillmore is a guy coming from Philadelphia to do the show.
Y'all should have that though, right? There needs to be that mingling of these scenes, because they need more shows. Like, nobody wants to just play in their own area, right? And then also, it's gonna help the comics here to see these people outside of the scene come in and murder if they're able to do it, right?
Oh yeah.
There's so much value in that. And then just Texas especially, man, this little path that's forming between, Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin, San Antonio, Houston, Waco, all these areas, this is just going to be some massive scene. I don't think it's going to be these separate spots after a while. I think it's going to be just this giant
I'm right
Texas
there with you,
circuit that you have to hit.
I've always had like a high level of opinion for Texas comedy. Mm-hmm. Like, since I started, like, just being able to like go to different cities in Texas and see, like, man, there's a lot of creative people, and then going to other places and being like, it's funnier in Texas. I don't know. But the pandemic really was a catalyst for getting people to pay attention to Texas comedy. Like, when New York and LA were shut down, they had they're not getting any reps. I took off maybe 6 weeks of comedy in total before I was back doing shows. I mean, they were like 25% capacity, but we were back.
Yeah.
And then you see like the influx of people just moving to Texas. Like, now people are starting to pay attention. They were going to anyway, just because New York and LA was closed for so long. They were starting to pay attention to what was happening in Texas. But then as some of these like kind of top heavy names start coming in, now they're really being like, I mean, Texas is a player in comedy.
Yeah.
And I know Austin gets a lot of the glory, but Austin's very top heavy. There's not enough clubs for the amount of
I think it's just going to be different. I was talking about it with Andy Franklin, and I think it's just going to be different because he was talking about the open mics down there versus the open mics here, how there's almost this just swarm of people, just anytime I get, and they're having to almost like raise the shock value in a lot of instances to get attention.
And the Kill Tony thing isn't helping that.
Right.
I know you were kind of praised, but it's like, it's kind of its own genre of comedy where people are writing for Kill Tony almost.
Well, I heard that there's a mic to basically prep you for Kill Tony too. So it is becoming its own thing. I am a fan of Kill Tony depending on the day, right? Like, depending on I think overall it's something that's helpful. But I miss the days when Jeremiah Watkins was on the show with Tony. I felt like that was a really good balance. Like, to me, the best version of the show for me, I understand people love it the way it is now, was when they were in California, Jeremiah Watkins was still in the band, and there was I felt like they had a good balance. They could keep each other in check. Like, if Jeremiah was getting a little too silly, a little too crazy, Tony could knock him down a peg. If Tony was getting a little too harsh, Jeremiah could knock him down a peg. And there was this great balance where I thought it was extremely productive. And, back then he was he would defend like comedy and comics. So like if anybody ever booed or anything, they're like, fuck you. If you don't have the balls to get up on the stage, you keep your fucking mouth shut. And it's like, even if you bombed, as long as you were cordial while you're getting roasted a little bit, it was all good.
Those days are gone.
Yeah, now it's just like, how much blood can we shed?
Yeah.
And so it's a different show. It feels a little more like a circus to me now, like it's wild. And I think the true fans of that show love it, and I think Tony likes putting on that kind of show.
For sure.
I thought it was a little more comedy-oriented in the past, and those days are gone. It's never going to go back to that. But
yeah, it definitely, I mean, Austin as a whole, to me, I mean, there's a lot of personality and not much joke writing. I mean, you got to have that balance between personality and joke writing. There's even before the pandemic, like I remember going to Austin and like I did a show once. This guy, he pulled up a YouTube video on his phone and just like showed it to people for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's what you're doing with your time? It's
stuff that's probably going to play well in Austin. But when you go to Tulsa,
yeah,
what are you going to do?
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like, if that's your foot in the door and you still know how to, like they have this guy down there right now, Casey Rocket. Are you familiar with him?
Oh, I did a show. I did Paris Comedy Festival with him way back when. Yeah.
Okay.
Great guy.
Exactly.
Awesome guy.
On Kill Tony, he's very much doing like circus sideshow, like high energy, blah, blah, blah. And people compare him to like a Robin Williams style where it's like all over the place. It's like, hey, if that's getting him what he needs on that show, that's great. I just hope he's still doing a bunch of writing on the back end, so when he does regular stand-up shows, he can mix it the way he needs to have his own style, but make it last longer than the couple minutes he's up there, right? And if he does, that's fantastic. But you just get worried sometimes that show can just chew you up and spit you out if you just try to please that audience only, So
yeah,
I wish the best for him. He seems like a funny guy,
Oh, I mean,
what he does.
He's not just writing for Kill Tony. That's
Good.
him. Like, I mean, I remember whenever I first met him in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
You could just tell this was 3 or 4 years ago, right? This was before the Austin kind of boom.
Yeah,
and I was just like, there was this guy that was just. He looked like he was just on drugs, just back and forth out the back of the room. I was like, man, this guy might be the funniest guy in the room right now.
Good.
If this guy's a comic. And he went up like maybe 2 people after me, and he had like this picture of like Grimace that he just like pulled out for something, and was just like, it was just so spontaneous.
Yeah.
And I remember the joke he ended with. I think about this joke all the time. He was like, some people are boob man, some people are ass man. Me, I'm a scat man. Zippity bop 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 doo ba. And he like got off on that, and it's just frenetic energy like the whole time, and it sustains. But it was pre Kill Tony. That was it. So
that makes me happier because it's
for sure. But there is a list of those kind of Kill Tony comics. You ask them to go do 45 minutes, and they're kind of drowning after minute 10.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen.
I think the best thing about that show, though, is at least some of the previous regulars, right? It's like Allie Makovsky's a good example.
I love Allie. We go way back.
Okay, well, she was on there doing...
She almost did a Cowabunga show because she was doing the Plano Comedy Fest,
mm-hmm.
and she was doing it Tuesday, and I hit her up, and I was like, hey, you want to stay an extra day and do ours?
Nice.
And she was like, I wish you would have sent me this. Like last week, my agent already got my ticket or whatever.
Yeah.
But we almost got her.
Well, she's proof, though, of if you do... put in the work of a minute a week on that show, like if you're a regular or something, like if you really write a minute, look at her career now, man. Like she's doing what everybody wants to do. I mean, and she started on that show working at like a wing place, I think, being a regular there. And it's like, if you put the work in, that show can turn you into something. But I think if you get caught up in just the narrow focus of only Kill Tony crowd, then that's where it's going to struggle, right?
For a lot of them, it's the goal. It's like it's not a means to an end. It's like that's the destination.
Yeah.
So if you use it like she did, like I'm sure there's people out there that use it the right way, but some of the people that have been rewarded like from it and have gained notoriety, you're just kind of like, this was like thrusted on you. Like you're not ready for this. Like,
right. Yeah. But Kill Tony keeps growing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're not going to stop it.
No. But I think that's an integral piece of Texas comedy now, and it's just going to be like, Houston's going to have kind of its version of what it does. We're going to have our version up here. Austin's going to have that, and then it's going to be about, can you get through these areas? And we're going to have this massive region. But I think what's more interesting than the Austin scene, the way Texas is growing, how we grow out so much, we spread, which is part of the reason you guys are able to do these shows in Plano, McKinney, Garland, is the Metroplex is getting so vast that these folks don't want to come to Dallas for shows. They don't want to come into Dallas for a show because it's already 30 minutes to get into Plano or somewhere else. So I think by y'all having these shows kind of more, are they still called suburbs anymore? I feel like the suburbs go for 2 hours now, but Plano to me is a bigger city than it's ever been, right?
Yeah,
but
sure.
I think there's all these people in these areas that aren't going to come to Dallas that are fucking funny and are going to try comedy because these shows exist now. You know what I mean?
Oh, I see.
I think we're going to grow the performers. I think that list is about to get really huge because, like Rockwall opened up a comedy club.
Oh, yeah, I'm headlining there.
Right?
So it's a couple weeks.
How many people are going to be out in like Rockwall, Fate, Nevada, Royce City, these areas where they think comedy.
Every show I've been to at Tyler has always been sold out.
I've only been to the one.
At the Rose City.
It was a great experience. I got to talk to the owner for a little bit, and he kind of broke down kind of what goes on out there. And same thing. I just think these people are going to be in these towns who are probably funny people who never, ever would have gone to Backdoor or Hyenas or Improv or DCC.
Yeah.
But they might go to that Rockwall Comedy Club. What is it called, by the way?
Jack's.
They might go to Jack's and do an open mic and get a taste of it. They might go to Rose City, get a taste of it. They might go to watch one of your shows, and be like inspired to do it. How many potential performers do you have now in Like we might grow by tenfold of strong performers.
Oh, I hope so.
Just because of these areas, and all these people moving in. I think Texas is about to just be a strange, weird beast in comedy that we haven't seen before. Because L.A., West Coast, East Coast, they're very condensed because they don't have the space we have, and we just sprawl out as far as we can get.
Right. The places that we're kind of like targeting for our shows, they're like, kind of like what the vibe of like downtown Plano is. So it's just like maybe like a historic square, something where like the population density is high, where you can just tell that. Like in downtown Garland, they just redid the actual square and like had a ribbon cutting ceremony a couple months ago. Leanne Rimes was there.
Hey,
yeah.
All right.
And it's you can tell that they're like emphasizing art, and they want this place to be like a place where like young, creative like people are like out utilizing this like downtown square. I mean, it's really nice area down there. And there's like apartments that have been developed around there. And
well, I'm sure they're sick of Garland has been a big city for a long time, and I'm sure they're sick of people moving out to other areas when it's like, why don't you have the things here? So it's nice to hear that they're wanting to invest in that because they have everything they need to be a major city in this area. There's nothing holding them back. All they have to do is embrace it a little bit. So that's good to hear.
Yeah, I think it was us living where we live now. And just kind of realizing how much we loved everything just being walkable.
Yeah.
I want to walk down, there's a restaurant, there's a farmer's market, there's a bodega, there's the liquor store, there's,
it's how it should be.
Park, there's the library, there's, it's all very walkable.
Well, it's so much better than the cookie cutter strip mall bullshit they put in every single new town now.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Where it's like,
yeah.
This one's got a Subway, a Supercuts, and with any luck, we'll get a Chick-fil-A.
Sure, some corporate graffiti somewhere.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, this McKinney was really. I mean, I don't see Plano that way because to me, that downtown area has been there for so long, and doing that. I used to work at. I don't know what it is now. Just on the other side of the train station, on the same side as Fillmore. I used to work at the skate park there when it was Eisenberg's.
Oh, right.
But they bulldozed all that. And is it apartments right there now? Yeah, it's apartments.
I think it's the farmer's market.
It is
in front of where it used to be, but like police stations there now.
Yeah, but so like I remember working there and like walking down the street to what's the little small pizza place down 15th right there when you go past
Urban Crust?
Yeah, I think it was.
There was a Zalot at the corner too.
I don't think it was a lot. I don't know what it was, but we used to walk down there and get pizza when we were at Eisenberg's, and it was always that little thing, and they've just steadily improved it.
Yeah, is that how you know Lawrence?
No.
Oh, you guys never crossed paths there?
If we did, I just never would have recognized them back
Okay.
then. Yeah. But I was working there probably 2000, like 3, 4, 5, maybe around that time period,
Yeah.
But yeah, so downtown Plano has always been kind of like.
I wish
they
that
have this
skate park
great
was
downtown.
there. Oh my God, I wish that was still there.
Yeah, it kind of went under at a weird time because now, like,
I saw pictures of it. It looks incredible.
it was incredible.
Yeah.
And it was as cool to work at as you would think. It was a cool little spot.
I would be there every day. I would quit comedy if it was still there. I would be there all the time.
You know what I remember the most is so Eisenberg was because the owner's son was a very famous rollerblader. I can't remember his first name. Arlo Eisenberg, I believe.
Okay.
And he was a famous rollerblader. Like he was one of the mans. Like he was top. And so they opened up Eisenberg's, but the family was Jewish. And so I remember we were working like on Christmas Day, like we opened, and it was literally just like these two BMX guys who were brothers who took it extremely serious that had like a year pass were like the only people who would show up.
Oh, okay.
And so it was just one of those. I remember that moment, but it was a crazy place to work. Like we had rentals at Eisenberg's.
You'd rent skates?
You could rent skates. You could rent a skateboard.
Wow.
It was fucking insane, right? And parents who didn't know any better would like have a birthday party there, not fully understanding what it was. So they might like just drop kids off, rent them skates, do all that. And we sign waivers. We explain like this is dangerous. And
they think it's a rink or something.
yeah. And it's like I remember the front had like a full cage section where it was a small kind of like a street course style. And then as you went down, ramps got bigger, right? So the back room had like massive ramps. And then out in the very, very back was like a full, like, I don't know, 10, 12-foot vert.
Yeah.
Like a real ramp.
I saw those pictures.
Yeah. So if you just rented
pretty intimidating.
You could rent your skateboard and go drop in on that vert if you felt brave enough. There was nothing holding you back. And people did. And like the most, pretty, like at the time, I wasn't used to seeing aggressive injuries. Like as you get older, you just see more shit. And broken arms and stuff were just very common. Like every weekend, some kind of little injury was going to happen. Just how big was it? And then you had like really gruesome ones. And it was never like the regulars. The regulars were all pretty solid.
Right.
It was always like this kid just rented rollerblades because he's rollerbladed on the sidewalk before. And like this one kid, he was going down maybe like a 5 or 6 foot, half pipe, and he freaked out when he went to drop in. So he turned around to like catch himself. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to hold on to the top and just slide down. And he missed his arms, but his teeth hit the coping.
Oh, no.
And he knocked out like, 2, 3, 4 of his front teeth. And he's just coming up to the front, freaking out. And, his friends are all freaking out, and we're calling him, and we're just like, the fuck happened back there,
Oh, man.
And then, of course, the parents are like, what did y'all let happen? We're like, where did you think you were taking them? What did you think this place was?
The teeth that's a visceral reaction. I could feel that as soon as you said it. Oh, my God.
It's bad. And if you've ever seen the coping on those ramps, it's just a pipe.
Oh, yeah.
It's just a metal pipe, and you're just like, oh.
Yeah, it's not forgiving.
It's horrible. And
Yeah.
that was like, that kid, I don't know if it was his party or if he was there for a kid's party, but it's like that's
They ruined the party, no matter what. They ruined the party.
Ruined everything. Some kid thought he could drop in on a bike on that big vert ramp. And it all takes skill, right? And, he just way overshot it. And he basically just went
flat.
all the way to the flat, broke his arm, It's
Yeah.
like, Jesus. It was just stuff like that, like pretty nonstop. But when those people were out of the way and you had your regulars that were in there who knew what they were doing, it was a pretty awesome place. Like it's like anything. There's people in there who are just doing crazy shit, And I was just a hobbyist at best with skateboard, Like I knew how to ollie and push around. I just thought that was a cool place to work, because they would do live music on Fridays too.
Oh, very cool.
So I would go there and see like shitty punk rock bands, and there's all this skating and stuff happening around you. So it was just a magical place,
Yeah.
But I think the free skate parks is what killed them. I think if they could have held out through the free skate parks, people would have come back into like, yeah, the free ones are cool, but this place is cool too. You know?
Yeah, there was a place in Deep Ellum that a couple places that closed, a couple skate parks that closed recently.
Well, I know they had the skate store there that had like a bowl.
That had a bowl. Yeah,
I don't know if that's still
I
there.
forgot
or
where
not.
that was, but I always wanted to do a don't tell show there.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was always like have the
great.
comic in the middle of the bowl, have people just sitting around the edge. I thought that would be a great. Like,
That would be
awesome
pretty
show.
cool.
Yeah.
You should check and see if it's still there. They may not have closed. Deep Ellum changes so much I can't keep up.
No,
but
they closed.
They did?
They
Oh,
for sure
well.
closed.
We took my son in there when he was like 2, just for the sensory, you know, like we went in there and there were some kids pushing around in the bowl and like they were doing stuff just because they saw us holding a little kid up there to the thing, you know, and just watching his eyes get locked in on something he's never seen before and just follow them around and just be, you know, and you're like, do you like it? And he's like, he can't even really respond to you. He's just like, yeah, you know, just barely nodding
I
his
put
head.
skate videos on for my class all the time. I think it's a really good lesson, like because they watch them fall and then they like get back up and try it again. Because like skate video, what I like about skate videos is that they'll show like the mess ups a lot. Like it's not just always like a perfect run.
Right.
It's them falling and like bleeding and getting back up and doing it again and again until they like get it. And I think that's an important thing to have as like a. Also, I think like skateboarders. I heard Spike Jonze once talk about like his favorite people to work with and collaborate with were skateboarders. That's why he works like so well with all the Jackass guys and like any like the music videos he did. He said he always had better relationship with people who like skate because they kind of see the world for not like what it is, but what it could be. You know, like they don't just see like a rail to hold your balance downstairs. They're like, man, what could I do with that rail? What can I do with that ledge?
Yeah.
What could this curb be? What can that stair set be? Like, you know, and I think it's a valuable like tool to kind of just carry into your. You ever watch like Rodney Mullen, like TED Talks? I mean, that guy is just. I love listening to that guy talk about anything.
Watching Rodney Mullen do anything.
Yeah,
you know,
just watching him just go about his business
most
is
of this
fascinating.
Well, and just the way he skates, it just shouldn't be possible.
Yeah,
you know?
but his whole philosophy, he expresses his philosophy. He's like a Neil deGrasse Tyson kind of skate. He's just like a champion of skating and never makes anybody feel dumb about not knowing about it and kind of empowers people. And
Well, and it's a great. I mean, that's the other cool thing about skateboarding is, or just I mean, really any extreme sports, but skateboarding specifically because I think the entry point is so low, right? Like you can find a way to get aboard somehow, and that's really all you need, right? And then you can just go out. But seeing all the different versions of people in that sport who all get to these similar points but very different ways, right? It's like a Rodney Mullen versus a Tony Hawk, right? Very, very different.
yeah, different
Very,
styles,
very
different disciplines.
Yeah, and it's like watching one of them teach the other one the way they do something is just strange, right? Because they're just the way they have flown, you know, their body flows through these movements is so different, but it's so difficult in either direction, you know. And then you just get, oh man, there's a real old guy, because like then you'll get like more of the renegades who are like
Like a Richie Jackson.
well, I love watching him just because
He's great.
So like when
the hippie skaters, like
yes.
I love the hippie skaters.
Dude, he's one of the only skaters I still follow on Instagram because the stuff he does is so fun.
It's
fun where
think
he's
it's
just
fun.
like, fuck it, let's do it.
Yeah.
No, I was thinking more of the was it Mike V who's more like violent and like aggressive.
Oh yeah, okay.
And like just lots of different versions of people in this sport but the skating kind of brings it together. You know?
Yeah.
It's very strange.
Similar with comedy, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just different styles and different you work on a joke, you mess it up, you mess it until you finally like figure it out. It's the same thing with a trick. Like, you know, I couldn't do kickflips until I could. Yeah. And I couldn't tell that joke until I could. You just have to keep failing at it, and just learning from each. I mean, the ollie is such a hard thing to just unlock, just as an entry point for like to gauge where you're at in that particular sport. And once you do, it's like learning kind of like what your voice is as like writing a joke. You're like, oh, now I know how to untap these other things. Now that I know what my particular structure is and what my particular mechanics are based on my particular style and like, body, what I have to offer, what my voice physically has to offer, what I can do with it, how I can manipulate it the way, fine tune it, subtle nuances, and just practice. There's a strong crossover.
Yeah.
Between skating and comedy. And I used to like climb a lot. I that was the closest I ever came to like finding like a community like skating was like climbing, like bouldering.
Yeah.
Before it got like really popular.
Yeah.
Because it was just like, because there was a community and people want to see you do the move. They want to see you get it. Just like in skateboard, they want to see you land the trick. So like you fall, they're like, man, at least you know what to do up until that point, and they're rooting for you. So yeah, you got to find. You familiar with what is it? Ikigai? Ikigai, like some Japanese philosophy.
Is that where you have like a purpose?
Yeah, kind of like
I was watching a show about that where like that's one of the reasons their elderly live longer is because they find task to give them purpose. Whether that's just like a garden or something. Is that the same?
Yeah, stuff like It's basically it's kind of like that philosophy of just purpose. But I think like you got to have different purposes, and you got to create your own. You know, you can't just be like, the waiting for it to like happen to you. You can't just wait for like love to hit you. You got to go find love. You can't just wait for inspiration to strike. It's not like hiding under a rock. You got to go create inspiration.
Yeah, that's. I feel like that's something. I understand that. My issue is usually I take on too many. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like to me, if you're like, I really want to do this, I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. Let's fucking do that. Right. And because I'm happy getting out of my element, like with Lawrence's thing, there's so much I did not know how to do with that. And it's like, we'll figure it out. We'll find something. It's like, especially nowadays when you have YouTube at your disposal to figure out fucking
I mean, when I put together my album, that was a fun process, just learning that whole thing. How'd did you distribute it through CD Baby or DistroKid?
No, we're waiting on that. Right now, all we've done is YouTube. We wanted to see what happened with that. But I understand the value of all that, of the digital distribution through like Spotify, Pandora, and all the...
Dude, because every season I'll get like money sent to my PayPal account from streams from like Pandora or Sirius or something like that.
It's time.
You should get a physical copy for sure. You should make it. And then I found I think what helped a lot is like right as I was doing that, like the process of like trying to figure out how to convert it to a physical CD and get all the distribution rights taken care of and album art and front of the disc and back of the disc. You did it all with the Brave Little House stuff. So I mean, it's, like the process. But I found like this person who worked for Pandora just happened like to be on a podcast that I was listening to, and they were in charge of curating like playlists. So like if it's Mother's Day coming up, they're like, oh, here's just like a list of like mom jokes. Oh, 420's coming up. Here's just a list of like weed jokes. But I don't know if you've already like put the track titles out for Lawrence's album.
No, nothing.
But
yet.
don't be if and when you do, don't try to be like cute with like the track titles.
Yeah, just
they
say
said like
this.
The more plain they are, like the easier it is for like those pieces to like kind of recognize it and
let the algorithm do its thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like so for mine, I would put like track 1 was called "This Track is About My Parents." This track is about my marriage. This track is about school. This track. So I'd like played with it for my track titles, but like if you get to that point, you should keep that in mind.
Yeah,
it helps.
Well, we talked about it beforehand, and we were thinking like, it'll be good to have an album. We'll do that, and then I can't remember why we decided to leave it the way it is on YouTube for now. We talked about it in depth though, but yeah, I want to do.
It doesn't cost that much.
No, it's not the money. It was more of just trying to drive traffic certain ways. All that boring shit, and everybody's got their own philosophy of kind of what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah, but with the Pandora thing, it's like money just sitting there.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, I'll go to my I have my Pandora station. Like it's actually like.
Did you go through CD Baby or like DistroKid?
CD Baby. I was a CD Baby. Yeah.
Okay.
And then the thing with like SiriusXM is they actually want you to have like a physical copy of the CD and like a physical like EPK to like mail in for them.
Okay. Yeah, that's
at least then. This is pre-pandemic, so I don't know.
Yeah,
things may have changed.
Well, I mean, what I really want to do long term, speaking of physical copies, is I want to start doing. I think I want to do like compilation vinyls I was trying to think of a way where comics who have released materials start doing compilations so that, I don't know, like most of my background's in music. So I think of when you talk about like money being left on the table, it's like all the merch opportunities, but it's just hard to make good merch at comedy shows that people want to buy. But I was thinking, that's stuff that used to happen in music all the time, where 15 bands would be on a compilation album that they all were selling at their shows. And it was a great way to get you revenue while at the same time promoting the other bands that you're friends with,
Yeah.
Get a lot of, so it's like if you guys are all playing shows at, 5 different areas this weekend, then you're still getting promoted at 5 different spots, even though you're only doing this show. But it's just a little harder nowadays, right? Once CDs went away, that makes it more difficult.
Yeah, I think they're going to come back, though.
I hope so.
I think they'll come back.
I think there's
because cassettes are coming back.
I think there's a quality to CDs.
Cassettes are coming back.
That it sounds good. I think CDs
I still have
phenomenal.
I still have CDs that I listen to for sure.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I was thinking maybe going down that road of doing like some sort of DFW vinyl compilation. Or
yeah,
something,
that'd be cool.
Just something. But it's also expensive. And then I still don't have enough trust of people around here to take material yet. They still don't know me well enough to go, yeah, that sounds great. Let's do it.
Oh yeah.
I think there's still some roads that need to be made.
Maybe new comics who asked me like for advice. Mm-hmm. I also realized recently that I'm like at a point now where people are asking me for advice. Hey. Like I've been around so long. I'm like, wow, that happened fast. Like, and
it's only been almost 10 years.
I know, but like just with the pandemic and just that different, that shift and generational shift of like, comics starting now and who stuck around and who didn't. Mm-hmm. But yeah. What was I saying?
You said the advice you give them.
Yeah, but what was I saying before that?
I was talking about how people don't know me, they don't trust me.
Oh yeah, no, I tell them to listen to your show because
thank you.
I think with like the comics that you put on, it's just like a wealth of knowledge that they're like just giving you about the scene. Like if you like pay attention to because you have like comics in the scene who are like respected. Mm-hmm. And for the most part,
I try.
I've seen 1 or 2 episodes, and but there's just like so much like knowledge for how to like navigate in the scene and what to do, and more importantly, what not to do. Mm-hmm. Like and just I mean, if they just come and just like listen, so I tell them like comics all the time, like listen to this.
I think you guys are dropping a lot of knowledge in here, so it's good to hear. But
yeah, I also say don't be boring, don't be needy. That's probably my number one advice.
Man, don't be needy is great advice. The more you can do for yourself, the more you can just figure out on your own. I would tell people all the time who ask a lot of questions, it's like, if you just kind of shut the fuck up and just watch, if you just observe what's happening, you're going to answer all these questions before the night's over. Like, just be quiet, just watch, just pay attention, listen, focus. All those questions are going to be answered, and you won't have to be super annoying. And then if it's a really important question, maybe wait till the next time and ask it then, and see if you can get it answered between, and just be very... If you can self-sustain, it's going to be really good for you, no matter what it is, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But, yeah, I don't know. I think, well, let me ask you this. You're 9 years in, 10 years in now, right? So where do you think you want to go with comedy now that you've had this much time in it, now that you do have this experience? What about your specific act? Do you feel like, I want to explore more of this, or I want to do less of this, or... like when you strive to write new material now, what are some of your goals?
I spent again like I spent a lot of time up top just working on like just jokes, and like I didn't really see value in like telling stories or like experiences, because a lot of it's like, because I was so young that I'm like, I don't think people will, why should they care what some 22-year-old like has to say about this? Why would I think that they have like a life experience, or why would they think that I have life experience or a story that is worth like listening to? So I was just like very focused on just like jokes, set up punch jokes. But over the past few years, I've definitely explored like more long form, kind of like almost like stories, and because of my emphasis on jokes, like now I know how to punch them up, and I know how to like where the opportunities for like beats are into the story and how to get to a destination point, and maybe even better, like how to find like callbacks within that story. So like, yeah, I did a show that was really stepping out of my comfort zone a couple of years ago that was in Bishop Arts, but it was a storytelling show. It wasn't even meant to be comedy. It was just, so I was the only person who's done comedy like on the show. It was just these people just telling really vulnerable stories. And I got up there and I told like a 15-minute story, basically about my dog dying effectively. And there were times where it was like, I kind of got a little in my head because there would be silences when I was like so used to like, okay, there should be a laugh right here. Like I should be laughing, but it's not because of the material I was saying, but just because I'm used to, oh, I spent this much time with a microphone in my hand and nobody's laughed. Something's going wrong kind of thing. But I look around and I'm like, oh, these people are compelled. Like they're on the edge of their seat right now. Like I still have them. Like, so being able to know how to tell like a compelling story and, but not lose sight of the joke effectively. Like I'm not trying to like change anybody's mind with the story or anything. I'm just trying to give a funny story that happened to me in my perspective. And, I don't know. It's definitely an exercise. It's like it's something you got to practice all the time. But I'll tell you who helped me a lot was Seth Coles. He told me like to start every morning writing, just journaling, not even trying to write jokes. Just start your morning by like writing, and then it just kind of just throughout the day, like it just kind of unlocks things in the brain where I'm just like already in that mindset of like thinking about things. So I'm like already kind of writing some stories in the morning or some experiences that happen, and throughout the day I'm thinking back on that. But now I've got like my comedic filter lens on throughout the day, and it's been kind of like, waking up a little bit, and I can go back and apply that later. And so that's really helped because I probably in this new like kind of like hour that I'm like doing when I'm like headlining, I would say maybe like 20 minutes right now are kind of just like stories or
I've always leaned more towards that. I'm not saying that's better or comedy than other comedy, but I've always loved that. When I feel like I laughed really, really hard, but when you come off stage, I feel like, oh, I think I know this person now. Like I have a false sense of knowing you. Like I might come up and introduce myself and be like, hey, man. And it's like, oh, you don't know me. That's right. You were the one talking up there.
Because it's this thing too where and I think about the different types of laugh. Like there's the heady laugh where like, oh, that was clever. Like, and then it's like, but then there's like the gut belly laugh.
Yeah.
And those are the goals. That's the goal, is to get those gut like belly laughs. And I have a higher success of getting those laughs from like stories where I'm like very vulnerable.
Yeah. Well, and just if it's that vulnerable to you, it's almost like you couldn't create it. You're just like you could never just write it that way. It had to happen. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Lawrence was talking. He's talked about it on another podcast. That's why I feel I can talk about it here. But he's got this moment in his special where he drops it down and he talks about how his grandma that he loved so much died, and he paints the picture of how she got in an accident and passed away. Right. And, it feels like it's a risky moment because, we're not just chuckling the night away here. But to me, that's always felt like, oh, man, this is like, wow, they're on the edge of their seat, kind of like you were talking about. And when I talked to him about it, when he talked, later on, we were at a different time, we were talking about how shows can drag or something, when we were talking about timing. And he was explaining how that's kind of why he made that hour that way, where it dips down, where he tells that story. He's like, the audience, in his mind, the audience is naturally going to dip at certain spots, like whether it's like a fatigue of some kind, like we've been at the show for 45 minutes, an hour now. And he kind of talked about how that was his way of kind of controlling that dip. Like, I'm going to put the dip in the mood on my terms, and then we'll bring it back harder. Like, I'm giving you the break. We're not taking a break here. And it was interesting. It was interesting to think about it that way, how like you can dive down and get pretty uncomfortable and then come back strong with laughter.
Yeah, Lawrence is kind of like us because he's a musician too, and I think musicians think about it a little differently because
you think about a set list that way,
and you think about set lists and how to create tension and then the resolve. like how to get back to the one chord.
I never thought about it that way.
You know?
Yeah, you're right.
So like if you can create
and maybe that's why I
that
like
dissonance
it more.
and that tension, and then but it's like it's coming back home, then it's like it's that I think it resonates more with an audience member.
That's a good point. I'm anxious to see some of his new stuff. People tell me it's weird. I don't know if he watched any of it. He said
he tried it at a Cowabunga. Yeah,
they said he's working. He was like, "Have you seen any of my new stuff?" I was like, "I need a break from." I was like, I edited so much of your stuff. I was like, I got to stop for a minute.
yeah.
But yeah, But on that same point, I'll be in situations in life now where something silly will happen, and it'll make me think of those jokes. Now granted I did a lot of editing, so I heard it over and over, but I do feel like the only reason I wanted to work with him is I connected with his material so well. That was really the premise of like, I love his comedy.
Who approached who about that?
It was weird. He talked to me about on here, which is fun. We've got it on his actual podcast episode. He's asking about it. But I was talking to my wife. I was like, I've got this equipment. I know how to do some of this stuff. I can figure out the rest. I was like, but I really want to start recording more things for people that I know are good around here. But it's just kind of about, again, building that trust, and like, are you ready to burn this material? And a lot of people are not ready yet by their own, like they don't want to do it yet. And he had mentioned doing like an album or something. And I think that's when I approached him. I was like, let's not do just an album. Let's film it. Because he had mentioned he, really loved this material, but he's kind of over it.
Yeah, outgrown it, getting tired of
it. He's outgrown it. He just went through the whole getting clean off meth and going through a divorce and all these things. And he's in a new part of his life now that he's clean and sober, and he's trying to get everything a certain way. And I think he's got a new view on what he wants to do as a comic now that he's in a whole different mindset. It's a different person currently, than it was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And so I think he just realized, like, I am not the same person that wrote that material. It's time to get rid of it if I'm going to get the new stuff going. It's almost, if I don't get rid of it, I'm going to lean on it, and I won't work on new stuff, is kind of how he was talking about it. And so that's why I was like, well, if you're going to do it that way, let's film it. Let's try to make it great, And I was real happy with it turned out. But I told him, I was like, to me, this is a tool. This is the thing you need to use to get to that next level of your career. And although we're happy with this, 10 years from now, we should look back as like, this was your worst one. And the stuff you did after this was just better and better and better.
Yeah. But that's tricky, though, because it's a lot of times the first one is the best because you spent so much time with those jokes, perfecting them. And then
True. But I think he's going to become a stronger writer than he even is now. I think he knows who he is now that he's gone through all that. And then I think people like him just have, they're like, I've spent a lot of time with a guy, through this process, and I don't know how well I think I know him. I don't think I know him that well still. Like, I think we are friends, but there's a lot about him that I don't know at all. And I think certain people just have these qualities that are always going to make them interesting. Like, he's lived a life that I'll probably never fully understand, and that's what's going to make a lot of his future stuff, I think, captivating. Is he's found a way to talk about some of the messed up things that he deals with or thinks or goes through, and somehow make that funny.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think some of the bits. I mean, some of them are just silly and goofy, but when he's talking about his mom, one of the bits is talking about his mom running around high, on crack in the house. And it's like, yeah, that sounds funny and silly until you think about, like, fuck, man, his mom was running around the house high on crack, and he is just a little kid, and then, you're around kids with your job. I have my son. It's like you really think about, like, damn, that was fucked. That situation was fucked. But he somehow made me feel really good about it on a Saturday at a club. Like, oh, this is hilarious, So I think he's found a big chunk of what he can do, and hopefully it'll just keep improving, obviously. But again, I think he's an example of we have others that I feel that way about too. Just they have different versions. Like we were talking about Rodney Mullen, Tony Hawk. It's like you got your own version. And I think that's what was really fun about working on that is he kind of trusted me creatively. I was like, here's what I'd like to do, like with his intro. it's not like a happy, upbeat intro, but I don't feel like Lawrence, his material was that way. So that gave me some like artistic room to kind of spread my creativity into a little bit, and I'm really happy with that. But I think everybody would have a different version of what that is, you know. So
For sure.
I'm hoping to work on more projects where people have these kinds of themes like that, you know. If it is set up punch, that's fine. You know, like I talk about Andrew Santino, like he's not a deep comic, but his show, one of his specials was called Cheeseburger. And that was kind of the theme of it, is he's like, I don't need to be anything that you think about too deeply. He's like, I just want to be a cheeseburger. I just want you to eat this cheeseburger, feel happy in the moment, and then go on with all the other, you know.
Which in itself is kind of deep.
It's a great theme. Yeah.
There's still,
that's what I'm saying. It's like, okay, I love that. Just give me
it's
like
still thoughtful. Yeah.
Yeah, like I want to know that however, like, why do you package these jokes together, right? It's not just because you wrote them. It's like you picked these for a reason, whether you know it or not. What is the reason that these jokes need to exist together in this package? Why not pull these out and put them over there and put some new ones in here? You know, something about these has a meaning, and kind of find that. And once he kind of talked to me about his mom and their relationship, and, you know, we knew all the material was about that. I was like, oh, well, that's perfect. This is it. You know, you're trying to bury that previous man so that you can become this new one, whether that's how he would say it or not. That's how I took it. You know, this is this shitty part, and I'm ready to move past that. Because I talked to him afterwards. I was like, are you worried that, you know, you're like the meth guy now? That's how people view you?
Oh, yeah.
You know, oh, hey, tell me, you used to be strung out on meth and made these bad choices. And he said he doesn't feel that way. He feels like that's a little part of the special that people talk to him about, but his new material is moving in a different direction than that already. So I was like, okay.
Yeah, more upbeat. I think he's doing a lot of suicide jokes.
Yeah, I know. He told me a brief piece, and I was like, don't tell me. I'm just going to wait until I'll see it when like, the universe typically brings me around to comics when I'm supposed to see them, I've noticed. So it's like, I just go to shows, and when I'm meant to see you is when I'm going to see you. It seems to just work out that way. And, but yeah, I heard he's going real upbeat with suicide material.
Yeah.
But,
And I like Lawrence. I like Lawrence a lot. And Lawrence is a great example of, you know, because you were saying like you're like friends, but you don't know if you like know him any better. And I think there exists that like, and it's easy to forget like most of these comics are like aloof and like probably borderline autistic and have like crazy like, you know, social skills and shit. So it's easy to be like, I don't know, to make assumptions about them and what they think about you a lot. And I'm not just pointing him out, but there's just comics in general. He's just, you know, one of them. I'm guilty of it myself too. I mean, I'm like quiet and I like stick to myself, and you know, if I'm with my, you know, crew that I run with and I feel comfortable with, I'm opening up more. But like a lot of times I just kind of go in and do what I got to do and leave. And I think that can be misconstrued sometimes as like, you know, being a dick or something. But I'm just like, I sometimes I just like I just don't want to fail in like social interactions so much that I'm like, I'm just gonna remove myself entirely, and you know. So I think people maybe misperceive me as being like aloof. I guess maybe I'm a little aloof, but like I don't like them, or I'm like inaccessible, or you know. But I think that every comic kind of struggles with that for the most part.
I think this show has helped me a lot at recognizing that like, you know, comedy attracts some interesting people to perform in it. You know, so it's a lot of people who maybe feel like they're not fitting in these other spots, and they found this thing. And so I give people a lot of grace now. Like if I think somebody's a little weird or something, I stopped going towards like, oh, I bet they don't like me. You know, I moved away from that real fast, because it's like, I think they're just a little strange or a little different, and then that's something. If they don't like me, I mean, most of the comics, right? Like they're bold enough. If they don't like me, they'll probably just say, I don't really like you. You know, they're pretty, like they'll say that on a stage. Why wouldn't they say it to my face? You know, and I give a lot of leeway now. I don't think it's as weird as you might think it is, though. for yourself. Like I've never felt that about you. Like, oh, this guy, he's like you said, aloof or whatever. I haven't felt that, but
Oh, well,
you might just be in your head on that one.
probably. Yeah.
You know,
Where else am I going to be?
look, we're not all going to be neons just chatting everybody up all day long.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. That guy, he's got dog energy, you know.
Did you watch
golden retriever?
I was going to say,
energy.
did you watch BoJack Horseman?
No.
No. Oh, you might actually like this show. But there's a golden retriever on there called Mr. Peanut Butter, I think it was its name, and that's the energy he has for sure.
Oh, really? Yeah. Yeah. I am a cat.
Dude, speaking of cat, what is this crazy maze you put in your house, man?
Oh, yeah. We got a nice little cat wall.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's incredible. Now, here's the thing about this is what's crazy about Instagram. I can like put a joke that I'm like so proud of up, throw it up, and it gets like nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I throw up a video of my cat like going on this cat wall, and it gets like 15,000 hits like in the first like days. What?
Cats are big, man.
I think I'm done with comedy. I think I'm just gonna post like cat stuff on
Just
my
use it,
Instagram from now
man.
on.
This guy Zoltan Kazas, he had a cat bit that went huge on. He had I think it was a dry bar recording, and he's done like lots of really funny stuff since then.
He's a funny guy though.
Okay, you know him, yeah.
Yeah.
But people still call him like, oh, the guy that does the cat jokes. And it's like, I think he does more than cat jokes now.
Hey, well, he
They're
got
like,
his
but
foot in the door though.
It's working for him, man.
Yeah.
It's working for him.
Yeah, I know. I'm just gonna. But yeah, the cat wall. We got a nice little wall for our cat. It's very
Did you
interactive.
Did you I'm sorry, the dog's name was Phoebe, right?
Phoebe. R.I.P.
Phoebe, thank you. Did you have the cat when you had Phoebe, or was this
No.
So you went dog to cat, huh?
I had Phoebe for like 9 years, and then she was dead for maybe a year, and then like it was really taking a toll on my wife because she was like working from home and just like lonely. And I was like, man, we're not getting another dog. I can't do this. Like, there's no other dog can replace Phoebe. And so she was like, let's get a cat. So I was like, all right, let's get a cat. And you know, the people are like, you're either a dog person or a cat person. And you're either an animal person or a schmuck. I mean, like the animals are just great. Like they.
Yeah, but a cat, wildly different energy
Oh, for
than
sure.
your dog
I mean,
Phoebe.
look at this. Look at that. I mean, she like scratches me up, dude. I look like I just got fired from Hot Topic.
Do you do you hear the cat running around like 3 a.m. on that new wall now?
If we're asleep, she's asleep.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, but she does like it. I mean, she does most of her sleeping up there.
That's badass.
But you know,
Cats are weird, man. I knew this guy. He broke his he like broke all of his side basically. He like broke his pelvis, his femur, his ankle because he was going to get a cat like off his roof or something, like his cat, and fell off the ladder. And it's like, dude, that cat is going to come down when it wants
that
to come
cat
down.
could get down. Yeah,
It's like,
that
what
cat's
are you
not
doing?
stuck.
Like it got up there.
Yeah.
It can get down easy, you know. And yeah, shattered like his whole right side of his body.
Oh, that's life changing.
And it's like, dude, you got to understand that cat's doing what it wants to do. All right, you just go back and exist. It'll be there. Don't worry.
Yeah.
But yeah, big different energy than your chill. Was it American?
Ours was the English bulldog.
English bulldog.
Yeah, which to me was the perfect dog because it was just being awake was her exercise. She was like so low maintenance.
I'm gonna have to go back on your Instagram and watch some of the old Phoebe videos.
I mean, maybe I'll just post them so I can start getting more
Dude,
like engagement and likes
should,
from the
man.
algorithm.
And wasn't she on the Rebel Without Applause album?
Yeah, she was on the back.
Yeah,
I'm like on top of my motorcycle with a Rubik's
She's like
Cube.
looking
She's
up.
looking up at me.
Ah, perfect shot. R.I.P.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Dude, I'm still in denial that my dog's gonna live forever.
Oh, I used to be like I knew I would know the day I was going to die, and I would tell people it would be like January 2024 because that's when I predicted she would die naturally, and I was like I'm just going to promptly kill myself after that. But
Dude.
then I got married, and I'm like I can't do that.
Well, my 4-year-old man, he is like he's finally made like a real bond with this dog, and it's like fuck. The dog is how old is he now? He is 9 years old.
Oh, okay. What kind of dog?
He's just a mutt, but he's mostly something called plot hound. So he's like 70 pounds, you know. So we're probably looking at like, I don't know, maybe like 13 to 15 years, somewhere in that range. Depends, you know. So it's like, fuck, my kid's going to be
rough.
just old enough that we're going to have a real talk with him. And yeah, it's brutal. Like I drive a Toyota Tacoma, so it's got like the little back window that opens up, and you can to the bed of the truck. Every day I pick him up. I'll usually take the dog with me, keep him in the back seat, and my son has to get in the back of the truck and then like scream through the window. He's like, Jack. The dog's name's Jack, and he has to like pet him in there. And then when I bring him around to put him in his car seat, before I can buckle him up, he has to give him like a big hug, and he like rests his head on his head. And the whole time I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be a horrible conversation.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be brutal. That's all you can think about. Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Can't even enjoy the moment, really.
No, I'm not. I'm just thinking of
yeah.
the sadness that's going to come in a few years. And
Yeah.
And you're like, live in the moment. Don't think about that. Live in the moment. But it's tough.
It's so tough.
It's tough, man, because that bond is so real. My wife just told me the other day, she goes, because I always leave for work earlier before my son's woken up. And she's like, yeah, the dog goes into the room every morning and wakes him up. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah. She's like, I'll open the door, and then after a few minutes, he'll go in there and like sniff him, wake him up by nudging him with his head and stuff. And then that's how he wakes up every morning.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh, God, it's going to be too hard.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're thinking about that day after
I
when
can't
it doesn't
do this.
happen.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh. It's like if you're an adult and it's that difficult to process it, how's this kid, he's realistically going to be like 8 or 9 years old. Yeah.
Like
It's like, this is going to be brutal. Brutal. That might be when I let him get a tattoo of the dog on his arm.
Oh, there you go. That's good parenting.
Anyway, we'll end on my amazing parenting. But dude, it's so great catching up with you always. I genuinely think Cowabunga is the best independent thing happening right now, and I'm so glad that you guys are just. Sounds like you're still growing with it, and I have very high hopes. I think it's going to turn into something really, really cool over the next couple of years. I don't want to jinx it, so we're not going to say it out loud. But
let's manifest it. Let's not jinx it. Let's manifest it.
I just think there's no reason, if you guys don't want to, you can pick one of these areas you're working in and open another club out there and do it your own unique way, and it'll be a new little pocket in our scene. And you guys will figure out what that is for you, but just keep doing your thing, follow your gut, whatever's gotten you here, just keep trusting those instincts, and I think it'll be something really, really interesting when it does manifest.
I mean, that's what we're hoping for.
All right. Well, anything else you want to throw in there before we get out?
Can I mention some dates I got coming up?
Yeah, this will be out in probably 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay.
Or sooner if you need it to be. I don't care.
All right. Well, okay, so the Cowabunga Nights, let me tell you when the Cowabunga Nights are. The Cowabunga Nights are second Wednesdays in McKinney at Elwood BFD, third Wednesdays in downtown Garland at Intrinsic, and last Wednesdays in downtown Plano at the Fillmore. They're free shows, first come, first serve. I want you to come out to the Garland one at some point.
Yeah, I need to.
Have you ever been out there? Intrinsic? It's pretty cool.
No, but I know that area. A lot of my family's from Garland.
I'll show you some pictures of it after the show. But so we got those. I'm doing some show at Big Laughs. There's this new comedy club in Fort Worth called Big Laughs. Are you familiar with Big Laugh?
I've heard of something downtown? Opening like literally down the street from Hyenas Fort Worth. So that must be it.
I'm there this Saturday.
All right.
I guess this was too late for that.
Well, it was a great show.
Yeah. For April 19th, April 20th, I'm going back to Houston at the Riot with Anthony DeVito. I'm featuring for Anthony DeVito. He hit me up yesterday actually and asked me if I wanted to come down.
That's good.
And work with him. I love the Riot. It's kind of a similar thing because they started at a place called Rudyard's and they were just doing like at the top of like the upstairs. But I mean, it was like music was happening too, but just comedy just dominated. That they eventually just took over the top and then changed the name, and now it's the Riot. So now it's like a comedy club. Houston's such a great city, and they've got so few comedy clubs. Yeah. They need more. Speaking of Houston, Grady Pruitt was on our last show.
I was about to say, I was talking to Grady Pruitt on here about how Houston needs more comedy clubs. That's when I found out what Rudyard's was, because he was breaking it down for me. Because I think they had like the Secret Group, but is that still there?
Still there, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Great shows. Great show. And then the Houston Improv, which is,
But they need more venues.
For sure. So the Riot in Houston, April 19th, April 20th. Cowabunga Nights in Fillmore. Hyenas Fort Worth with Rob Stant, who's going to be on the Fillmore show, and because he's coming in town to do Hyenas. He's headlining Hyenas, so he's going to come in early and do the Cowabunga show. He asked me to do that show with him, Hyenas. I think there's a good comedy show running I think it's Kafaya Comedy. It's
Oh yeah, it's like a henna studio, right?
yeah. But all the pictures I see, it's like
Is
there's
that,
always
I'm so bad with names.
Marina. I think it runs it. Marina.
Yeah. Riyadh, is that her last name?
Yeah.
It's a henna studio, and they do comedy there.
Yeah, so I'm doing that on the 27th. Headlining Jack's Comedy Club May 2nd, 3rd for their little Cinco de Mayo show
There you go.
out there. The Comedy Arena May 16th. Headlining the Brazos Theater in Waco May 18th. Headlining Rose City in Tyler May 25th. Doing a Hyenas run with the guy that actually played me in the ESPN Hulu show. He's actually a comic.
Okay.
And he's going to be doing the Hyenas, so I'll be working with him at Hyenas on July 10th, 11th. But,
Full schedule, man.
yeah,
Dude, you love to see it.
Hey, we're working, baby. We're working.
All right, man. Well, we'll leave it on that, and we'll see what happens next time you're in here, right?
Cowabunga, baby.
The I'm a Fan of podcast, music, comedy, and more.